Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Good morning everyone and welcome to the Gladstone Regional Council General Meeting of the 1st of December 2020. The Mayor's just absent very briefly. He's at a medical appointment with one of his children and he should be here any minute now. So we might move on with the agenda in his absence until he gets here. And item G/0, apologies. I don't believe we have any apologies. So move on to messages of condolence. Councillor Branthwaite.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just would like to mention the passing of one of the probably, I suppose, designer or future thinkers of our region in the past was Avers Blums. He passed away recently in Brisbane. He was well known for, I suppose, back in the day of the state development land, which the 28,000 hectares. It's to the northwest of the town of the city, and and helping make all that happen. And he had a pretty big impact and visionary on our region. And we'd send our condolences out to his wife Anna. His wife Sandra and her daughters Anna and Sarah.
Thanks, Councillor Branthwaite. No more messages of condolence? No? We'll move on to prior notification of MPIs and conflicts of interest, and I believe Councillor Trevor, if you want to start it off.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I advise that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item G/4.1, development application for material change of use of premises for a parking station at 5 Agnes Street, Agnes Water. The subject land directly borders land of a body corporate of which my wife, Colleen Trevor, is a member as owner of Lot 31 within that body corporate. I hold a power of attorney over Colleen's financial affairs and vice versa. While I do not believe that I would stand to gain a benefit or loss, or suffer a loss that is any greater than the benefit or loss that a significant proportion of persons in the local government area stand to gain or lose, I believe that as a councillor I would be privy to information that compromises my position in any voting on the matter, because as owner of a lot in the body corporate I may become part of court action against council. For that reason, I will not be participating in any decisions relating to the Agnes Water car park and will leave the room.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Mr. Chair. I advise that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item G 4.8, access to Gladstone Port, as I am the chairman and Diamond Life member of the Gladstone Region PCYC. Why? The PCYC leases land at Memorial Park on Hanson Road, adjoining one of the proposed development corridors in that particular agenda item. And as a result, the PCYC and its many members could be impacted by the proposal. Notwithstanding this declarable conflict of interest and subject to the will of my learned colleagues, I propose to remain in the room and participate in the decision, including voting on the matter, as I believe that my declarable conflict of interest will not lead me to make a decision that would be ethically contrary to the best interests of our community and our region. Over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. So first we need a mover as to whether or not Councillor Churchill has a declarable conflict of interest.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I move that Councillor Churchill has a declarable conflict of interest.
Moved by Councillor Trevor, seconded by Councillor Branthwaite. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Declare it carried. And now we need to a mover for a motion as to whether or not Councillor Churchill can remain in the room for the decision.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'm happy to move that Councillor Churchill remain in the room. And the reason for moving that motion is that I believe that his declarable conflict of interest will not lead him to make a decision that would be ethically contrary to the best interests of our community and region.
Seconded, Councillor Branthwaite. Yep. Before I put the motion, was there any further questions to Councillor Churchill? No? Everyone happy? We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Declare that carried. Was there any other conflicts of interest or MPIs? Sorry, we don't call them MPIs anymore, do we? No further conflicts of interest? No? All right, we'll move on to item number G/1, Mayoral Statement of Current Issues. We'll leave that. I'm sure the Mayor may want to come back to that as soon as he gets here. Item number G/2, confirmation of minutes. Confirmation of the general meeting minutes for the 17th of November 2020. Moved Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Cameron. Put the motion. All those in favour? It's carried. Item G/3, deputations. I don't believe we have any deputations, so we'll move on to the officers' reports. Item G/4.1, development application for material change of use of premises for a parking station at 5 Agnes Street, Agnes Water, and hand it to the General Manager of Customer Experience, Rob Huth, and I believe Councillor Trevor's leaving the room.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. As indicated, I have a declarable conflict of interest in this matter, and I seek leave of the chamber to remove myself from the room.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and good morning, councillors. The purpose of this report is to assess the development application of 4-2020 for a material change of use of premises for a parking station or car park located at 5 Agnes Street, Agnes Water. In this instance, we're in a position that is rare but not unique, whereby council is the developer as well as the assessment manager, and it's important to recognise the role that the development team play as an assessment manager and regulator, and the separation that exists between the council as the applicant. This and all applications are assessed against the relevant provisions of the Planning Act of 2016, the State Planning Policy, and in accordance with Council's planning scheme. Our role as the asset manager is to assess the application and decide to refuse or approve with conditions in accordance with the Act and scheme, and in doing so determine if the development is suitable land for the use in this location. The application was prepared by Cardno on behalf of Gladstone Regional Council's project arm for the establishment of a parking station or car park within the mixed-use zone. There were no requests from the applicant to seek pre-lodgement advice. The proposal triggered impact assessment, and as a result, public notification was required and conducted by the applicant from the 12th of August to the 4th of September 2020. During this period, 28 property-made submissions were received. Council concerns raised by the submitters included the topics of acid sulphate soil, stormwater, pollution, illegal camping, impacts on amenity, and flora and fauna. Concerns raised by the submitters were presented to the applicant, and as a result, a revised plan was developed that's seen the increase in the separation distance between the rear adjoining dwelling and the car park, and decreased the number of car parks from 87 to 73. As the asset management, the concerns raised by the submitters were assessed against our planning scheme. A number of the concerns raised by the submitters will be further considered in the preparation of detailed construction civil drawings to be prepared by the subsequent use of this land that's being considered today, as part of the operational works stage of the project, which will be pending any decision made today. Submitters will be notified of the decision and retain appeal rights with the opportunities to appeal the decision to the Planning and Environmental Court. The application process met the obligations in terms of the public notification under the Planning Act. The proposal is located within a mixed-use zone and within the established tourism and retail area. Therefore, the development is considered generally consistent with the planning scheme and is recommended for approval, subject to a number of relevant conditions detailed within the report. And I'm happy to take any questions, and I'm joined by our Manager for Development Services, Helen, who can assist with any technical questions as well.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions to the General Manager or Manager for Development Services? I'm sure there'll be a few. Councillor Hanson.
Can I start, Mr Deputy Mayor? We had 28 submissions, and we haven't. People are saying we haven't answered all of those submissions completely. Is there a reason for that? And
Yep, sorry.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, there is a number of questions that have been raised by the submitters or concerns. Probably more than 50% of those relate to the operational work stage of the project. So if approval is given, then the developer will continue to outwork their build up their construction ready designs, and come up with their methodologies about construction and how they're going to manage some of those concerns that have been raised, and then we manage that through the operational works approval process within council.
Just to state, and this is a very ecologically sensitive area that we're building the car park. We made that car park a goal of ours, but the public want to come along with us, as far as I can see. They want to have their input, but they want to come along with us to get an actual car park built. But it is one of the most sensitive areas of Agnes Water, and residents are well within their rights, I think, to have an input into the car park's final shape. And as long as they can get that in the operational phase, and I'm not sure what they can.
Yeah, I guess that's where the applicant, as part of the construction planning phase, is for council officers to take that up, if they take that opportunity up with the submitters.
So
that's
if
something
it's
that's
only an
separate
if.
to this.
It's only an if, it's not a given. It doesn't have to be given at this stage if it's approved, does it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when some of these people have written to us subsequently and described what they see in the area during flooding and whatever. I would assume their knowledge is probably in excess of some of the engineers that have looked at the site. I just think we need to be taking more of that concern into place during this DA.
Yep. And yeah, that's an operational matter for the officers to take up with the submitters and the community in that space.
How do we make sure that happens? As I said, it's a very sensitive issue. It's one of the most sensitive
Yep.
wetlands in the Agnes Water area,
Yep.
and we really have to make sure we look after it. And if any car park's made, that we do it properly. And I'm not saying we're not, but
Yep.
I just want to be sure on behalf of the public that that's going to happen.
Councillor Hanson, if I may interrupt, my understanding is that the consultant that's assisting us with this project has offered to have members of the community on site before they start construction to actually talk through some of the techniques that they're looking to apply.
Now, that doesn't say that in the...
No, I think it's important they're separate matters. This is about
separate.
whether the development is approved or not. The way that development then proceeds, I think, is a matter for council as the applicant. I think there's some of the queries that you're raising. General Manager, Strategic Asset Performance may wish to comment on that. I'm just very cautious of our dual role here and just keeping the lines clear, but if that's okay, Mr Chair, Mark might have something to add.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Hanson, those are all very good points that you're raising, and as the CEO has mentioned there, you'll recognise that only a few weeks ago I would have been sitting in Rob's chair. But as the applicant here, so we've made an application for this construction. The construction is being assessed. Separately to the public notification, there has been community engagement with a number of people within the Agnes community. And that's been successful to a greater or lesser extent. We've still got some issues to outwork there. And once, if subject to approval, there'll be a further community engagement phase as part of the construction before we start putting shovels in the ground.
And things can change then if necessary?
If they need to, yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Mr Chair. I've got a couple of questions here, and part of it may perhaps go back and make further reference to where Councillor Hanson is coming from. But on page 9 of your report through the General Manager, on the 12th of June, the applicant requested an extension to the information request period. Can you just give us an understanding as to why there was a request for an extension and the implicit aspect of what that information was?
I'm not privy to that one. I'm not sure Helen might be able to cover that one off for us.
The Planning Act specifies a timeframe that an applicant is required to provide information back. So there's an opportunity for council as assessment manager to ask for additional information, and then there's a timeframe for that information to be provided back. In this instance, the applicant needed a bit more time to get that information back to us, and it was likely to do with the stormwater management plan and some other additional clarification about the application. So we'd asked for additional information, and they need a little bit more time than the Act allowed to submit it back to us for assessment.
All right, thanks for that. I mean, I have a level of trepidation in making a decision today, but I want to be comforted, I suppose, as Madam CEO has made reference at this stage, and that level of trepidation is more indicating that we don't want to hold this project up, certainly, but it just seems to be that from information, and I had requested overnight whether this information that we've received from the Agnes Street Streetscaping Group, and be it others down there, have put in information, and they're well aware that this matter is on the agenda today. And the one point that jumps out of this 5-page report, I suppose first and foremost, I did ask if it could be tabled. And Madam CEO, you've indicated that that can't be the case.
Councillor Churchill, my advice is, as this is a development application, the way that people make submissions is quite clearly identified through legislation. So the submitters have provided that information through the appropriate process, and the information that was provided was essentially restating some of those concerns. So my advice is that we stick with the DA process as it's legislated. We're well aware of the concerns and well aware that submitters may feel that their concerns haven't been adequately addressed, and I suppose that's councillors' role here today, is to decide has enough information been provided in response to those submitter issues for you to make a decision today.
All right, I mean, I'm prepared to accept that for fear of indicating that I'd like to move to defer the matter, which I'm not moving at this particular stage. But I want to ask the pertinent question, because what seems to be jumping out at me at this stage is, and having been previously the chair of the Planning and Development Committee, that those committees no longer exist, as we all know, I understand that process. But we've been talking about community consultation. And then we hear it's community engagement. I'd also like to advocate today that perhaps we should be doing this as a bit of a partnership as well with the community down there. It could be some great outcomes that can be derived as a result of that partnership. So in saying that particular comment, my question is relevant to the correspondence that we've all received, well, I would hope we've all received, and others as well, which are supporting, which is, I suppose, consistent with the 28 submissions that have come in. Can you give us some comfort today that these matters that are being raised in this correspondence can be and will be addressed?
Again, based on the conversation before, there's probably 50% or more of the concerns raised by the submitters sit in that operational space, and the issues that have been raised there are more outworked by the applicant as they develop their construction plans and their methodology about how they're going to undertake the construction thereof. So that information becomes more clear as they get more detail in their plans. And based on the conversation that Mark has just had with us, that they plan to undertake some additional consultation with the community in this space, and those operational matters, I'm sure, will be addressed through those consultations.
Okay, I'm prepared to accept that, because you've outlined in your report here that there's various requirements, there's plans, there's statute law, and the list goes on. So that's, you've indicated here today, and we're being open and transparent, is that 50% of those can be addressed through an operational approach.
Yes.
What about the other 50%?
Yeah, the other 50% have been dealt with or conditioned within this report here to pick up on those other 50%.
Subject to our decision today?
Subject to the decision today, yes.
So we've got to have the confidence, which I'm seeking, the faith and the trust, and I suppose this is now, a segue from where Councillor Hanson is coming from appropriately. Are we going to respond to the 28 submitters, or do we respond to the correspondence that we received yesterday and be it the day before from these people that are sharing that they have complete frustration with council due to a lack of constructive responses on the above matter? But you're indicating we're going to respond later when we've made the decision rather than before, is that correct?
Yeah, pending today's decision, we will contact all the submitters based on where the decision's landed today. And then again, the following correspondence that we received recently, that will be dealt with through the operations space, through the assets team.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
I'm prepared to accept that. I'm prepared to accept that, but I suppose my final question and my pertinent question is that we don't know what we don't know, and as such, but I think that there are some great ideas, and one of our key points is, our key points of our vision is to connect, diversify and innovate. If there's an opportunity for community innovative ideas to come forward in amongst all this plethora of information that's coming through, are we going to consider that? Are we going to embrace it? Are we going to decide that it's beneficial to that community as a partnership with the community?
Yeah, again, I'm speaking on behalf of Mark. It's an operational matter, and I'm sure that through that consultation period that all the concerns raised by the community and the ideas that the community are bringing will be adequately considered and thought through in that process and communicated. Okay,
so a question to you, I suppose, Madam CEO or Mr. Chair, and the elected members will be all part of that dialogue and that communique in relation to opportunities that might arise as a result of this community infrastructure.
I think that's absolutely the intent. I just wanted to make it very clear, though, this is a development application we've got here today. So if I equate it to a shopping centre, someone's got an idea about a facility that might go in a place. It's not constructed and planned to the nth degree, because council can put conditions on and say, no, we want you to consider this, this and that. So it's like a two-stage process. The operational works is an application process. So again, council is the decision maker. So that all has to be laid out in much more detail about how these things are going to be done. So we have to be careful again about our approval role versus our community engagement applicant role. But absolutely, that is the intent. Yeah, I don't know if that helps to explain, like the level of detail that the submitters, I think, are seeking at this stage, as Rob has explained, is not able to be provided in that detail right now until the more detailed planning is done to actually know what those specific impacts are. And there has been that we have to be very careful again, because we are the approver today and we don't normally have the applicants in the room explaining how they're going to outwork their project with interested stakeholders. But that's the approach. Two-stage process. Your DA is your concept with conditions, and then your operational works approval is more detailed about the specific work that you're going to be doing, moving soil, affecting waterways, all those sorts of areas. So,
okay, thank you for that. I'm prepared to accept that. I'm sure there's other councillors got very important questions as well. Thank you.
Can I just...
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Muscat has been waiting patiently, but I just would like to make the point, and I had a number of phone calls yesterday and we've had emails, but from my perspective, I didn't anticipate that this particular project would attract such a high level of interest from the community. I just thought, it's a car park, we'll go and build a car park. But we have listened to the community. We've had subsequent community consultation as the applicant, and I'm conscious of the CEO's advice that this is a development application. As the applicant, we can take on those other issues, but we've done a lot of that consultation, and we've listened so far as we've changed the plans. I'm not suggesting that it's been perfect and that everyone's satisfied, but from my perspective, the plans have changed fairly dramatically from what the initial proposal was, and that's reflective of the fact that council has tried to listen and engage with our community and take on board that feedback. But if Councillor Muscat, you'd like to ask a question?
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck and Hanson. I just want to, I understand the dual role that we have in this situation. I just, I'm concerned, I guess, from both ends. So there's obviously information here that we have that some of the proposed I guess the proposed changes or the proposed plans are cause a lot of concern to me as from an applicant point of view. So not relating to environmental issues and also to cost, because it seems like there's a number of things in here, and the information we've been provided recently could indicate that pricing or cost that we anticipated might actually not realise and might be different. So I'm also concerned in that way. I know that I know we have provided the community with a lot of time for consultation. It was, at first, it wasn't actually consultation, it was just information given. So it wasn't exactly consultation. We went on to a workshop, which I was thankful for. So I understood, the community was wanted to give their input, and I respect that, and we went and did that, and I was happy and I was proud that our council did that. So, however, there has been a number of attempts from a lot of these residents to engage with council again, and we have not done that. And I'm actually quite frustrated about that, because probably what we're doing today could have been avoided if we would have engaged with them in a more significant way. I know that they have concerns which are quite valid. We have people that live right next to this place, and they're already experiencing issues because of the illegal use of this space. So, and that it's only been used, by about, 15 people maximum, and now we're talking about 73 car parks. There's issues about, how we're gonna manage that. Obviously, all of the environmental concerns. There's definitely the look of this place. I don't know exactly. I wasn't part of the decision of building a car park in this place, but personally, I really I don't know whether that was a good idea, from the beginning, to be honest. So this is a small place, a place that is used by a lot of people. It's narrow, and we have lots of traffic already, and now we're just going to put more cars in there. I just don't know what is that we're trying to achieve in here. If it's people walking less, or I just don't understand if that's actually in line with my idea of what I would like and what a lot of residents in Agnes Water want this area to look like. So, but I know I'm in this situation now, so I actually don't have the information to make a decision in this matter. There's a lot of issues that have been raised by a number of residents, all of them, and they're not actually addressed in this report. So I understand that we can do it later, and I respect that as the applicant, that we can go back to the community and go back to people and ask them, but and I would normally be confident that we will do that, but in this case I'm not, because we haven't done it, and I can see why community members will not have the trust that we will do it after this approval happens. So that's why, and I want the community to actually have trust in us. So that's what I would like us to engage with them before we go ahead and approve this. And normally, as I said, I do trust our processes, and I would trust that we will go and engage with the community in the operational level, in the operational stages, when we, I guess, fine-tune and redesign or whatever it is that we do in the later stages after approval, but not in this case, because we haven't done it in the past, and I want the community to have trust in us. So I will prefer us to go back and engage in a meaningful way, and then come back and review this matter.
Thanks, Councillor Muscat.
Thank you.
I think we're playing two roles, so we need to, as councillors, be conscious of the fact that we have a development application before us today, and we need to consider that development application on its merit, and try and, I think, if I'm not mistaken, try and stay away from our role as the applicant. We can address those issues as the applicant, as a separate matter. Today, the item on the agenda is the development application, and we need to consider that development application in the same light that we would any other proponent. And just for anyone, the approval of the development application doesn't mean that it's going to start being built tomorrow. As the CEO pointed out, there's a whole bunch of conditions, all these expert reports, operational works permits, where a whole lot of work has to continue to be undertaken. So for anyone watching, just because the development, whether it will or won't, hypothetically, if it's approved now, that doesn't mean it's been built. So there's still plenty of opportunity.
I understand that. What I said, and I will say it again for anyone watching, that I understand that, and normally I will trust the process. In this case, I don't, because we haven't done it, and there's a lot of things in here that have not been addressed. So as playing the role of the ones approving or not approving this DA, I still not feel comfortable with that I have the information that I need to make a decision. So again, I understand the dual role that we play in here, and I have my issues in both roles, but I'm making a decision, and I'm saying this, that I'm not ready to, I'm not equipped to make a decision based on the information I'm giving, just acting on the role of the person that's going to approve it, not the applicant.
Councillor Muscat, I wasn't referring to you, sorry. I apologise if that was taken
Thank
in
you.
that manner. Councillor Hanson and then Councillor O'Grady.
Mr Deputy Mayor, this should have been, I think, done right from the word go with the community. We should have brought them along in this sort of sensitive area that's at Agnes Water. Remember how this started? It started with a design for whatever it was, 90 car parks, and the design was brought for information to the community. That's how it started. there was some concerns, and I was at that meeting with Councillor Muscat. There was some very much concerns about the design right from the word go. Then it was brought back for consultation on a consultation night to the Agnes Water Group, and all of the issues that you see in the people have brought up were brought out that night. I just think I'm still a bit nervous about approving an application where I think we could have done a lot better with community input.
Thanks, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Grady.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. I agree with what you say, because we did go down there and I think I met with 4 different lots. I went down and had conversation with the residents over in that period. But if we look back 20 years ago or more, before Agnes Water Beach Club was built, so on where Agnes Water Beach Club, we used to play netball there. So, and when netball wasn't there, that was a car park. So many cars parked on that. So there has been a parking issue since the beach club has been built there. So, you know, it's not a problem that's just arisen. These cars have just started driving. You know, it's been back 20 years ago. So that was where people used to park back then. So at the moment, it is very, very dangerous, and residents in Jeffrey Court are complaining because they've got people parked on their footpath most of the day, every day in peak season. So, but I just wanted to make you aware that this isn't a problem that's just occurred. So it has been going for a long, long time. But I just want to make sure that once this is approved, that the applicant's mindful of school holidays. So in the past, school holidays, like whether, you know, get it to a condition that, you know, maybe it could be condition that, you know, it could be utilised during the school holidays. That's all I ask, that once this DA is approved. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Grady. Rob?
Yep.
Are you able to answer that?
Yeah, that's fine. So obviously there's a lot more work for the developer in terms of building up these plans and building up their acid sulphate soil plans and environmental management plans, landscaping plans. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. So there's certainly nothing that's going to occur in these approaching holidays, but certainly we'll take it on board in terms of the conditioning around any disturbance in that area in those peak periods of time.
Thanks, Rob. Councillor Muscat?
Rob, thank you, Councillor Goodluck. I just wanted to ask you a quick question, because obviously it is a contentious issue, and if it happens that, which I wouldn't be agreeing to, but if we happen that we approve this development application, what are the we will go, the submitters will be notified and they will have a right to appeal again?
Yes.
Correct? And so if that was to happen, compared to us taking the time to go back and address some of these issues, time-wise, what will take longer?
Helen might be in a position to answer the time.
Can I just interrupt too? We need to be very mindful of the decision-making period, and Helen might be able to advise me. If we don't make a decision within the timeframe available, it will be a deemed approval, and we will not have the opportunity to condition. So we can't defer. I'm not sure the timeframe where we're up to, how long we've got to go. But I do believe, my observation is some of the information that the submitters are seeking cannot be provided at this stage of the process. So, that might just be a consideration in what can be done at this stage versus the operation.
I'm just kind of concerned that if this then escalates if we do approve it, and then we have legal situations, etc., whether we will save all that time and headaches by just going back to addressing some of these issues right now.
My only comment is that the conditions are fairly clearly set out against standards. The assessment of is this the right development in the right place is legislation planning scheme. So I think it would be low risk in terms of legal moving forward, because that's what we're seeking. We're just upholding standards that would apply to any other development of this sort of nature. So I really think the concerns that have been raised in this instance are more about some of the detail in the next phase of the process. But sorry, Rob might have something to add. That's just my...
Yeah, that's exactly right. The detail will come to light through any approval that's taken from here. And and those concerns raised by the community will be addressed through that operational workspace.
Thanks. Helen, were you able to give any clarity around the timeframes there, sorry? As a matter of that the CEO made around deferral, etc.?
Yeah, this application has been extended, so it's in its decision-making timeframe at the moment. Ideally, what would happen is a decision is made by council and then the submitters are notified of that decision. So the developer first has a period to consider that approval and request any negotiation to any conditions, which is obviously the council in this instance. And then the submitters are subsequently notified after that, and that's when their appeal period commences. I think it's worth noting that a development approval, the currency period for this would be 6 years. So that just lies with the land, and it's up to the developer to then build up and develop up their construction drawings that detail out some of those elements that we've talked about already. And that is the great opportunity, in my view, for council as the developer to re-engage the community and talk through those matters and be able to demonstrate clearly that those issues have been addressed. And there's plenty of time to do that.
Thank you, Helen. I just had a couple of questions, if I may, Rob. Or Helen, whoever's best able to answer. The visual amenities around the screening between the car park and the opposing residents, is it conditioning that we do that, and making sure, we don't want to just build a timber wall, for example, try and make it aesthetically appealing as we can? Is that part of that condition, sorry?
Yeah, my understanding is the landscaping plan will provide shrubbery to the street facing, as well as shrubbery to the dwellings in beach houses, as part of the landscaping requirements with plans within that space.
And would that act as not only a visual barrier, but potentially a sound barrier as well, to give some protection to those residents? Is that the intent there? Obviously, we don't have the finer detail, but is that the intent of the condition?
By default, it will provide some sound barrier in that space, but it's more around that visually appealing sort of aspect.
Thank you. And with the various conditions, the reports, the acid sulphate testing, landscaping reports, etc., are they publicly available at the point in time that they're complete, or is that up to the applicant? How does that process ordinarily work? Is that something that's a public document?
I'm not sure. Helen might be able to answer that one. Yeah.
Yes, they are. So
Yep.
any development application is available for perusal by the public. So that information would be available and would certainly form the material that would go back to consultation. The operational works application doesn't have a formal public notification process like this application did. However, the opportunity for council as developer to do that is there.
Thank you. And with the probably a question to the applicant, I've been asked about that landscaping body of work, and certainly we would engage the community with those aspects around what that sort of landscaping would be. That's the plan. That's what I'm hearing from our
absolutely in the best interest of council and the community to work together on this project. So that's absolutely the intent.
Thank you. Councillor O'Grady, I think, and then Councillor Churchill. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just forgot to ask earlier with the funding. So can we get an extension on the funding? I think that was Works for Queensland.
Yeah, again, it's an operational matter. I'm not across the funding side of things and where the funding is coming from necessarily, but
Take that one on notice, Councillor Grady, and at times we have been able to substitute other projects if we've had timeframe issues, but there was quite a focus on actually delivering what we committed to, but we'll manage that separately. I don't think that should influence council's decision on the approval or not approval, but we'll get back to you on that one.
Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mr. Chair. I've got a couple of other questions here and there, and I'll stay under my 5-minute requirement under the legislation. My learned colleague, Councillor Natalia, indicated we don't know what we're trying to achieve. I think we need to understand, and let's make one thing very clear, we're actually trying to create more car parking. That's the intent. That was the initial intent from what Councillor Hanson referred to from the original walkabout in understanding the impact that was happening in that particular area. That's what we're endeavouring to do. But I think we also need to be sensitive to the fact that this is going to be a community infrastructure. So there's all the other peripheral issues with it. And I think we just need to somehow become a little bit more sophisticated or humanised in our approach to getting the feedback rather than the hardcore planning submissions. And I do understand that particular process. So from my perspective, the question that begs at this stage is that it's not about the funding, but we've made a specific budget allocation. And if we do decide to support this, taking everything into consideration, what's the budget implications in relation to it sitting on the table for 6 years? Does that roll over, or do we then reconsider that again in our budget cycle in June next year? The other question I'll pose, the double barrel question, is that for us to agree to this today, subject to all the other things that we've been talking about and the likelihood of perhaps an appeal against it, I'd hate to think that we'd actually be the respondent and the plaintiff within the planning court fighting our own community for a project that I'm sure that everybody wants to see happen. So there's two questions in that, and I'm not quite sure through you, Madam CEO, who would be appropriate to answer it. One's a budget allocation that we've made and also the funding, and I know that you've indicated funding's a separate issue to the planning process, but I've heard today that it'll sit on the table for up to 6 years if it's approved. And my other question is appropriately from a legal process.
The first question was about the currency period, which I think Helen indicated that's the DA has a currency period of that length of time. We intend to bring to Council early next year our 6-monthly budget review, and that will include a review of our capital program as well. So at that time, if there are any changes proposed to the program, and that's where we will also capture the funding implications as well, so we can provide that at that point in time. Your second question in relation to appeals, that's my understanding is it would work as a normal process. Council is a developer and also an approver in this instance. So any legal action to be taken by Council we'd be briefing councillors on before any action was taken. So I think, again, that's a further consideration could be made at that time if that was something that eventuated. Does that answer your questions? Or
Yeah, I'm comforted with that. Thank you.
Through the chair, most of the submitters want to work with us. They've said that for a car park, and that's what we probably want in the long run. But we've said to them also that we're time constrained by funding timeframes. We've said that to the residents all along, and now we're saying we're not today. Is that the?
I don't think I said we weren't. I think I was saying I think that's a separate consideration to the decision of whether the DA has merit in terms of approval or non-approval, and that we'll bring back in the 6-monthly budget review our current position.
Okay.
There is a risk that the funding could be lost if
That's
we
always
don't
been
deliver the
said.
project. But
That's always been said,
that shouldn't, that's something that's council's consideration in our operations and our budget, but it shouldn't influence your decision on whether the DA meets the requirements of the planning scheme and you're satisfied to approve or not approve at this point.
Thank you.
And I know there's lots of talk about council hasn't done the consultation well enough. But on the other side of that, I've also had conversations with members of the community that have told me, you've wasted your time, you shouldn't have done this consultation, you should have just got in and got it done, we need it, you've wasted all this time and money, blithering about with this consultation. So there's other people of the view that we should have just gone in and done it and not have any. So I'm not saying that we've done it perfectly, I'm saying we're trying to balance, as we always do, the opposing views within the community. I think we've got to remember that we're not necessarily going to get something that everyone is happy with, but we've got to try and do our best to balance everything. Councillor Branthwaite or Councillor Cameron, did you have any? Councillor Branthwaite?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Good luck. Look, I've been listening to everybody's point of view, and they've answered a few questions that I probably had. But at the end of the day, I was present also at that first consultation meeting, and it got a bit heated, and it was certainly, I think, the end of right at the start, there was a block sent off to the likes of Cardno and said, what can we get out of this block? And that was what was presented. But it was also a good starting point for us to have this discussion where we are right now, because there's been a lot of consideration being put into the new revised version of this car park. There was no doubt that we actually need this car park. There's no doubt the community wants a car park in some form or another. And to be honest, the property is being used for that right now as a car park that's got no safety standards with it at all. And here we've got a council that's actually wanting to develop that. They've purchased a block and developing it, and we've got the bones of a really good system here. And it's from then on, I think, with the operational phase that has been talked about. I think we'll iron out all those little wrinkles, and as Councillor Goodluck said, it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but we want it to be a compromise. And I think today we need to sort out that this project needs to move ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Braithwaite. Councillor Cameron, I might just hand the chair back to His Worship, Mayor Matt Burnett. Welcome, Mayor Matt.
Thank you. I'll hand to Councillor Cameron to comment, and then I might see if anyone else will speak, and then we'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good to have you back. And thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, I don't think there's any doubt that this car park is going to go ahead. The community want it. There is a community need for it. If we approve this today, that won't be the end of consultation with the Agnes Water Group or any of the residents there. In fact, it will reignite it. And what our planning officer told us is that there's a whole list of things that need to be done as prerequisites to get this project moving. And most of these concerns that our submitters have put in will be taken up and addressed with most of these tests, acid sulphate soil, compacting problems, all that. They're all engineering things that have got to be dealt with, and they really can't kick off until you get an approval. So I do believe that it will be in the interest of the project if it was approved today, subject to all these conditions, but maybe very, very inclusive of the Agnes Water community to still be involved and make sure that all these concerns are addressed thoroughly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation, and I do that. I understand we've had a lot of interest around this project. We've had a lot of communication from different people, and it's my intent as a councillor, and I'm sure I speak for all councillors and our organisation as the applicant, that we definitely go back out and engage with our community and make sure we do the best to address each and every one of the concerns raised and bring our community on the journey with this particular project. We want to do that. We will do that. But today, as far as this item's concerned, I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation there.
Thank you, and it's seconded by Councillor O'Grady. Before I put the vote, Councillor Muscat would like to add?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going to reinforce what I said before. I don't think anyone's against. I'm not against having a car park. Well, at this stage of the situation, as I said, that wasn't part of the initial decision. But I see that and I'm also not criticising all of the consultation that has happened up to now. I think I was probably the first one to praise council for going into the extra consultation sessions that we had when not everyone was in agreement to it. So I was more than happy and proud to that we did that. I was just disappointed at what happened after and all of the correspondence that we received from a number of residents that that we never responded to, and we received offers to meet with them and we declined them, and I find that there's now a lack of trust in that we're going to engage in the process, and I respect that and I see that and I feel that from the people I speak to. So it will be my preference that we engage with them and we provide them with that personal communication and engagement before we approve this. I don't want to, I guess as Councillor Cameron said, well, in his view, this is going to reinvigorate the consultation. Well, there is no guarantee here that that's going to happen. We could just not do it. It's not written anywhere that we have to do it. And it's no guarantee there apart from what we discuss in here or that someone's saying that we will do it. So I will be more comfortable if we do it before the approval is granted. So that's why I won't be supporting the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. I have a mover in Councillor Goodluck, a second, and Councillor O'Grady. Before we do, I'd just like to apologise to the Agnes community for missing the debate. I have obviously read the report and I'm well aware of this this block of land which we purchased for a car park, and obviously we've gone astray a little bit from what I'm hearing in terms of the community consultation. But in terms of can't guarantee it, I have to disagree with that. If we approve this as it's moved and seconded currently, we will insist that there is further consultation with the community. So our officers are in the room, our CEO is next to me, and my vote will be to support this today, and on the condition, if I need to add a condition in that there's further consultation. But I know our planning team will make sure that happens, and I'm sure that Kylie's team will make sure that happens as well. If we've done it wrong, we'll get it right. But the idea, Tom Jeffrey Park doesn't have enough car parking. Blind Freddie can see that. So we purchased a block of land and we've been supported with a grant to develop a car park to provide more car parking close to the main beach at Agnes, the main beach, Australia's northernmost surf beach. So I'm happy to support this today, and I do apologise for missing the debate. I was at the local GP with my son, so family first, and I think we're going to come up with the right decision here today, but we'll see. Have a mover in Councillor Goodluck, second and Councillor O'Grady. Any further comments? I'll put the motion all in favour. Sorry?
I just got one more comment.
Sorry, Councillor Hanson.
I kind of agree with Councillor Muscat and the way we've done this. I'm happy to ensure that Council as a whole sees this through to the way the community wants it to happen. So, I mean, the consultation happens is to not upset that environment, the pristine area of the creek system down there. So, yeah, I'm happy to support the resolution. Guaranteeing, is there any way we can guarantee that in words, Mr Mayor? You said that before.
Well, I can ask the CEO.
I don't believe it's appropriate or potentially legal to include as a condition of the approval, but I can give you the guarantee as the CEO of the organisation, and Council will hold me accountable.
Okay, happy with that.
Happens, so duly noted.
Good, I'm happy with that too. Now I'm going to put the motion...
Before you do, Mr Mayor,
okay.
and I made my position quite clear, I think this is not just about consultation, and I've heard the word consultation. We've got a policy. I think this is a partnership because, as I said earlier in the debate, it is quite obvious that the car park is required, it's needed, and I think we should do this in a partnership with the communities. Not just this one, but this is a good learning exercise for other community infrastructure that we do.
Thank you. Put the motion all in favour. Those against? Motion is carried. With council, I think, yep, we can do that. I think a division's needed to be recorded with the councillor at the room anyway, is that correct? So we'll, for the minutes, will those all in favour, please? As Councillor Goodluck, Councillor Branthwaite, Councillor O'Grady, Councillor Cameron, Councillor Hanson, Councillor Churchill and myself, and those against. Councillor Muscat is against and Councillor Trevor is out of the room. Could we have Councillor Trevor back in the room, please? Okay, thank you, councillors. As I said earlier, I missed the start of the meeting as I was at the GP with my son, who's fine and well now. So I'll go back to the first item on the agenda that has, we've gone through apologies, messages of condolence and prior notifications. So the next item is the Mayor's statement on current issues. And I'd like to start by acknowledging our Youth Council and the team involved in the Festival of Summer. We launched our Festival of Summer earlier last month. That'll have the opening festival at the Gladstone Aquatic Centre, and I believe that's a free event. It is for the whole community to attend to, and then of course that goes into the days of summer where they have all the activities right across the region for our Gladstone region youth to enjoy in January next year. That'll wrap up with the Festival of Summer Sounds for 13 to 17-year-olds at the Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre on the 15th, and for the first time next year we'll also have an 18+ event on the 16th of January, so that's going to be an awesome summer for the Gladstone region. So make sure you get your tickets, GECC, whether you're the 13 to 17 year age group for the Festival of Summer or the Festival of Summer Sounds, or also for the 18+ event. We, on the 20th and the 21st of November, we hosted, and I believe it was Australia's first, but I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, open air concert since the start of COVID. That was Airbeats at Blaine Park in Gladstone, obviously. Headlining act was Shepherd over 2 nights, and it was a fantastic event for our local community. And it was all about supporting the local live music industry and helping our community recover following the closure of businesses and cancellation of many events due to COVID-19. Can I thank our events team for doing a fantastic job, and the team at High Risk Solutions. They put just as much into that event probably as the council did and the community did, but just as equally I'd like to thank the volunteers. There was volunteers everywhere. I probably equal the number of volunteers as there were attendees. There was that many attendees, but there was that many volunteers running around, and that's what I love most about our community, the volunteers that get in and make these community events happen. And that's what it was all about, supporting our local live music. I mean, at the end of the day, there's so many businesses that have suffered during COVID-19, and sometimes we forget about those people who perform live across our community. On the 13th of November, sorry? Oh, thank you, Councillor Goodluck, including yourself, who didn't perform on the night, but I'm sure that you would have entertained the crowd equally as well. On the 13th of November, I was very fortunate to be elected alongside Mayor Tracy Roberts as one of the Vice Presidents of the Australian Local Government Association, supporting the new President, Councillor Linda Scott from New South Wales. So I'm looking forward to that new role as the Vice President of ELGA. Tonight, we light up our Christmas tree. Obviously, the Christmas street party is not happening this year. COVID effects again. It was a bit late to, even though there's been changes across the state on what you can and can't do, it's a bit late to change that event now. So we're not having a Christmas street party this year. However, we will be lighting the Christmas tree. So for those watching at home, bring the kids up and drive up the main street, and the Gladstone Region Christmas tree in Gundoon Street will be lit up tonight. So enjoy that between now and the end of December. We are having a carols event though, so the 4CC and Santos GLNG Mayor's Carols will be hosted at the Entertainment Convention Centre here. It is a sellout event, but we have got a waiting list, so if you want to get your name on the waiting list, it is a sellout event. It's a free event, but it's sold out, so we could ticket at the event and make sure it was meeting all COVID requirements. And that will, of course, be live streamed on the Facebook, on the 4CC Facebook for those wanting to watch at home. So I'm really looking forward to having a carols event. I'm sure there's plenty of communities across Queensland and Australia that won't be having a carols this year. On the 12th and 13th of December, our community will host the Harbour City BMX Queensland Country Championship. So that's going to be looking like a fantastic event, drawing lots of people into our community. I believe Councillor O'Grady's competing in an event there on the day, and I might be able to make it there myself. We'll see how we go. And how good was it this morning to walk into the Entertainment Convention Centre and see Morning Melodies back on place? Our senior citizens back enjoying an outing here at the Entertainment Convention Centre, and we know how much they love the Morning Melodies. And councillors, I'd like to wrap up my Mayor's statement today by acknowledging and hearing of the very sad passing of Brothers Football Club matriarch, local community champion and one of the most beautiful souls I've ever met. Our sincere condolences to Paul, Jill, Tony, Nookie, Kay, Jan and the entire Smith family. Yesterday we lost someone very special in Betty Smith in the Gladstone community, and I pass on our sincere condolences on behalf of my family and behalf of the entire Gladstone region to the Smith family on the passing of Betty. Councillors, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is officers' reports, G4.2, which is water pricing, and I'll hand over to the Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes. Thank you, Mark.
Morning, Mayor, morning, councillors. This report is to consider Council's adopted water price for the 20/21 financial year. As you're aware, we adopted a price of $1.83 at budget time, in line with our commitment of a rate freeze. Since that time, we have received confirmation from the Water Board of a passing on of an increase based on the QCA recommendation, so QCA being Queensland Competition Authority, releasing their pricing report. the impact of which sees a 16% increase to council for the current financial year. So that takes our water price from effectively $1.83 a kilolitre to $2.13. So in line with the revenue statement that has been adopted by council, and which way we actually words that we actually pass on the cost of water charged from the Gladstone Area Water Board to Lake Wonga water consumers through the water consumption charge. This report proposes to increase that charge from $1.83 to $2.13. So happy to take any questions.
Councillors, any comments, please? Councillor Churchill.
I think we all anticipated something, didn't we? I mean, let's deal with it at this stage, is that we were quite well aware that there was going to be a price increase. I think the decision we've got to make today is whether we accept it or whether we reject it based on our position that we made when we went through the budget process. So I suppose not only do we deal with that, but the other part of it is the impact that it will have on our budget. I'm more concerned about the next round of price increases, which we're well aware of. If you read the document, they're obviously going to review it again. So we're a bit of crystal ball gazing as well. Anyway, that's just a comment, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson, then Councillor Goodluck.
I'm prepared to move the motion, not happily, but I will be prepared to move the motion because budget-wise, it has to happen.
Would you like me to get a seconder for that now? I have more conversation. I think I'd like to get
It's
around
up
the
to you,
table.
Mr. Mayor. You can go to the conversation.
Councillor Goodluck, then Branthwaite. Councillor Branthwaite second. Thank you. Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to say that I struggle to understand this decision at a time which is, you've only got to turn on the news at any given point, any channel, and see the economic hardship that not only our region, our country, the globe is facing in 2020. We're all well aware of the circumstances that we're in. The Gladstone Regional Council, we had strong and arduous debate for many months, and we delivered a freeze to all our increases in our costs, despite the ever-rising cost pressures to the Gladstone Regional Council. And we did that on the back of, I think I was about a $4.5 million deficit, as my understanding, the first deficit delivered in the history of GRC. Is that correct? Or the first since I've been on council anyway. So a lot of very, very tough decisions made, and we did that because we were trying to reflect the position that our community is in. And I don't proclaim to be an expert in the Gladstone Area Water Board's business model or what they're, I'm sure they've got rising cost pressures as well, but in a time where we've managed to make a lot of tough decisions and deliver a freeze to increases, we've got a 16% increase from the Gladstone Area Water Board. And look, if that's the case, that's the case. I don't think we have much of an option, Councillor Churchill, I'm not sure. We've got to pass those costs on to our community. But I'd call on the Gladstone Area Water Board to explain that to our community so that people can understand, because it's not, whilst this charge will appear on the Gladstone Regional Council rates notices and charge documents, it is not our charge. It's a charge that we pass on to our constituents on behalf of the Water Board. So I would ask that the Gladstone Area Water Board do their part in explaining that to the community so that our community understands the reasons that they're subject to this 16% increase in cost at this time.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Trevor, then Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, does the Gladstone Area Water Board have a legal discretion not to pass on the price increase as recommended by the Queensland Competition Authority?
So the Queensland Competition Authority makes a recommendation to the Gladstone Area Water Board. The Gladstone Area Water Board is its own independent body and can make a decision based on that. So it's obviously makes its submission to the pricing monitoring body, being QCA, of its intentions, but certainly is a separate decision. The board can make a separate decision as to pricing as opposed to its the QCA recommendation. Correct.
So essentially, the Gladstone Area Water Board, if they so chose, could have made a decision not to pass this price increase on to the ratepayers of the Gladstone Regional Council?
Correct, and as you recall, there was several offers made, but the conditions with respect to those offers and none of those actually matched council's rate freeze.
And do we have any documentary evidence or other evidence to support any allegation by Gorb that they have been the victim of rising cost pressures, notwithstanding COVID?
So council made a submission to the to Queensland Competition Authority, and certainly they, like any asset manager, as we are facing increased costs. So certainly they need to make sure that they've made an argument for the increase of cost to ensure that they're maintaining their asset base accordingly. So my only evidence is actually attained through that process. But yeah, they have had an increase in costs, and that's been reflected in the price. It's been essentially passed through.
We as a council sent a clear and unequivocal message to the Gladstone Area Water Board that we were prepared on behalf of the council to stand up and support our community at a time when the rest of the country was being closed down because of COVID. I just find the justification for a price increase in the middle of a COVID epidemic very hard to justify. As a member of the community, I watched each and every day during the COVID crisis good men and women of this community do what they've always done, and that was to get up and go to work and to come home safely. And I just see this price increase as a major slap in the face for the good men and women of this community who stood up during the COVID crisis, who got up and went to work each and every day and will now suffer the pain and penalty of a tax on a commodity that everyone has to consume to survive. The council makes no money out of water. The Gladstone Area Water Board, in the middle of a pandemic, has chosen to introduce a new tax on members of this community who did everything humanly possible during the COVID crisis to keep the state of Queensland running. And you can just imagine what would have happened if major industry in this community had have closed down. And yet, as I say, each and every day they got up and they went to work, and what has the Gladstone Area Water Board done to them? In response, they've chosen to introduce a new tax which will cost those good men and women money out of their pocket, which they probably otherwise would not have expected to have to pay, given the strong message that we sent to Gorb as representatives of this community, that we were there ready, willing and able to stand up for them at a time of economic and financial distress. As I say, I find it extremely hard to justify this increase. I probably don't have any choice other than to support it, given the circumstances and the budgetary issues associated with it, but I am terribly disappointed. I am terribly disappointed as a community member to see Gorb do this to our community when they had a legal discretion not to do so, and when they were fully aware that we were trying to do everything humanly possible to support our community in a time of financial distress.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's that was great. Thanks, Chris. Councillor Trevor. So I'm just I guess I wanted to also thank the mayor and those people that have been involved in discussing this matter with the water board. This hasn't been something that just happened in the last week. In case people aren't aware, this has been happening for, well before we passed our budget back in, would have been July, I'll say. So I just wanted to mention that, and we have been trying to not come to this point. Obviously that hasn't happened, and I just wanted to make people aware that the increase of 16% on the price of water that the water board is passing on to us, and correct me if I'm wrong or I'm reading this wrong, this will result in an additional cost of approximately $2.9 million. Is that correct, Mark?
That's correct.
$2.9 million that we have to pass on to the consumer, and that is going to mean an extra $60 increase on an average family consuming the average annual household of 200 kilolitres of water. So water, the thing that we need to live, survive. So we are receiving a 16% increase on the price of water. So I guess I'm as disappointed as all of us in seeing this, and I guess it will be, I will appreciate if we can explain a little bit more as to why we have to pass this increase onto the consumer, just for benefit of people understanding. And if you don't mind, I also read that there's a Part B to this review, and if you can maybe give us a bit more of a background on that as to what is that we might be expecting to. Thank you.
So yes, there is two parts to this transaction. So the first part is essentially the purchase of water from the water board, and that's essentially been the increase of 16% that we're receiving on all water purchase since 1 July. The second part is then how we recover that cost, and the council has been over a significant period of time ensure that we have aligned our consumption charge to the water board, and for various reasons to ensure that alignment that's been consistent. So that's why this paper is before you. So the total cost to us is $2.9 million in terms of a dollar increase. So if you weren't to pass that through, that would go straight to the bottom line and see our a deterioration in our operating position. With respect to Part B, that hasn't been implemented yet, and believe that the water board will be looking to commence negotiations with council officers in the new year on that matter. So that's with respect to recovery of what is they're calling accumulated under recovered revenue. So essentially costs associated with maintaining the infrastructure, maintaining the asset base over a number of years. So the QCA has given a ruling with that respect to that. Council did make submissions with respect to both Part A and Part B with respect to that. So there isn't a figure in that. We're still working through what that means for council, and because hopefully there's a way that we can actually minimise that cost to the community, but we will be working through that. But it will be a potentially an additional increase. At this point, that is not flagged to come into place for not this current financial year or the next financial year, but the one after, so essentially from 23.
So basically you're saying that we can also expect further increases?
In line with the adopted QCA methodology, if Water Board outworks that in full alignment, yes. So you will see, so the Part A sees a CPI increase in line with that period, but Part B will come in place from 2023.
So thank you, Mark. So basically what we're doing in here, so the officer's recommendation is that we amend the consumption charge to $1.83 to $2.13. So there's nothing else we can do really, because that's the charges that they're going to give us. So we need to amend it.
Correct.
So there's no other avenue for us to not support this. I mean, if I wasn't to support this recommendation, what would be like? What would happen next?
Our legal obligation is still to pay Water Board at essentially the increased price of 16%. So as I said, that is essentially a deterioration of our operating position of $2.9 million. So it would mean that we're essentially cutting a cheque for that additional $2.9 million, and we've essentially got no avenue for recovery of that through the consumption charge.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Councillor Churchill, sorry.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mr. Mayor. I'm suspicious, and I said that in my opening statement. We don't know what we're dealing with here at this stage, and I congratulate this council on its submission to minimise, as you've indicated, minimise the impact on our residents and our ratepayers, but I'm still extremely suspicious. So from my perspective, I ask the question is, and I realise that Councillor Hanson's already moved the recommendation to accept the increase, understand that circumstance, but in light of saying that, if we were not to accept it, and this is probably a legal question, but if we were not to accept it, there is nothing stopping the Gladstone Area Water Board from retrospectively, help me here with this Queensland Competition Authority price increase, that they could actually retrospectively go back in the next round, in Plan B or whatever the next stage might be, in that cost recovery. Would that be correct?
So the Water Board's pricing decisions are one for the Water Board to make. Absolutely. So whether they're in alignment with the QCA direction or otherwise, it is absolutely their decision. So as I said, the Part B is proposed to be an additional recovery of costs that have accumulated over a period of time since essentially Gorb's been operating as a entity that's been subject to commercial oversight through the QCA. So that will be a separate decision at that point.
Okay, so what I'm indicating here at this stage is that if we didn't accept it, that in 2023, if that be the next price increase, they could retrospectively come all the way back to the year 2020 to recover. That's what they could do. I'll make that as a statement rather than a question now. On page 27 in 63, on page 27, currently there is a misalignment with the revenue statement due to the adopted water consumption charge of $1.83, not reflecting Gorb's price increase. Council can consider, we can consider amending its revenue statement due to the difference between the water consumption charge and the cost of council purchasing the water from Gorb. So I've got two questions that jump out at me at this stage, is that we can, or we must, or we may, or we will, depending on the decision. Is that correct, in our revenue statement? And my other question is Gladstone Area Water Board have rateable land in this region in any way, shape or form?
Two-part question. We'll take the first one first. So the revenue, with respect to the revenue statement, that is absolutely yours to determine and make amendment to. Like any policy position we put forward to you, we've generally made this recommendation in line with what is your existing policy. So what's come forward to you is in alignment with the current wording of the revenue statement. Should you wish to make a different decision, we're just highlighting there that there would be that misalignment, and there is that misalignment currently between essentially the cheque that I'm cutting each and every month and paying the Water Board and what we're actually likely to get in as consumption revenue. So there's that piece. And sorry, the second part of the question, Paul?
Had rateable land.
Oh, rateable land, yes. Yeah,
second part of the question was appropriately, I'm wanting to indicate at this stage is the Gladstone Area Water Board has rateable land within our region, and do they have a specific category within our rate considerations?
They do.
This is not a leading question, this is just simply a question that we deal with the legal part of a revenue statement.
Yep, so they're deemed as, they've got commercial land through the operation of their dam. So but it absolutely is a right for us to consider categorisation of that land separately if that was a desire. So at the moment, under the tax equivalence regime, the Water Board remits to Council the payment of that, which is no dissimilar to what the Gladstone Ports Corporation do under the same statutory sort of heading as a government-owned corporation. So they remit that revenue to us for the land that they're rateable for. But like any general rate, we can determine a category for that land. So with respect to, at the moment, we don't separate out land for water storage or operation of a dam, etc. That is not currently contemplated, but obviously can be a part of a future decision.
I'm suspicious it might be looming. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. I'm obviously concerned about the what is it, almost $3 million increase is going to come to, increase in water. And considering, we were having conversations with the Water Board right up to and even including 2 days before the budget, and we were anticipating a freeze. Now, obviously, that's not what we ended up with. It's what we offered a community. What we gave to our community was a complete rates freeze for residential, rural and commercial ratepayers. And unfortunately, the Water Board has decided to offer something. Let's be fair, that they can say to the world that they offered a temporary freeze. They were going to then charge us God knows what from January onwards, so they would have got that back and some. So that's not a freeze. A freeze is when you freeze what we did. That's a freeze, where you actually accept the fact that you're in a global pandemic and you freeze the price and you take a hit. Our deficit, first time since I've been mayor, we've had a deficit, and probably the first time almost since amalgamation, if not shortly afterwards. Obviously amalgamation first year was tricky, that we've not delivered a surplus budget, and that's because we've taken a hit. And it's very disappointing the Water Board has decided not to take this hit and pass that 16% increase on. But I'm actually more concerned about Part B. Part B is where they're going to potentially increase water by significant amounts. I think what we need to do here is write to the new Minister for Water, who just happens to live in Gladstone, and he's a good bloke, and we have a conversation with the ministerial department about taking an impairment and about doing a COVID concession. So I'm happy to support the recommendation because we have to pass that price on. Let's be clear, Gladstone Regional Council makes no money out of water. Other people will tell you otherwise. I'm telling you right now, the advice from my officers has always been that we pass on the costs. There's lots of costs in running water. There's costs of water mains, there's costs of reservoirs, there's cost of distribution, there's cost of treatment, and there's cost of purchasing, and it's all got to be included in the price of water. So I think we need to meet with the Minister. He's only just been appointed Minister for Water, so provide him with a copy of our QCA submission and meet with the new department, because I know Anthony Lynham was very supportive. In fact, a couple of times, the conversations with the former Water Minister was, do you want the Water Board? Do you want to take it over? What's the conversation? So we were like, well, let's chill for a bit. Let's have a bit of a conversation, look at what that works for our community. But I'm not suggesting that today. I'm suggesting is a conversation with the new Minister for Water, Glenn Butcher. And I think he's a good bloke and he'll listen to what we have to say, and we should put that in the motion. And if the mover and seconder are happy for me to amend, I'd like to add that as a point B.
Happy to amend. I feel almost apologetic that I even moved that motion so quickly. Now, and I'm being dreadfully honest, which I always am. But my feelings are the same as everybody else in this room, and we have to recover the money at this stage. So I like what the Mayor's saying about talking to the people in charge and see if we can get some relief in the future. But at this stage, that's why I moved the motion. And happy to have that.
Amendment. Okay, the amendment I would say is Part B, so that's A, the officer's recommendation, and B would be write to the Minister for Water, Mr Glenn Butcher, and request a COVID concession on the increase in water charge by Gladstone Area Water Board to the Gladstone community, and or B, very important, and or B, consider an impairment on Part B of the QCA's recommendations to GORB.
Happy with that, Mr Mayor?
Thank you. Second is happy with that. Councillor Muscat.
I just wanted to make sure that we're going to have good communication with the community, and whether that is going to be addressed, if it needs to be addressed within the motion, or because I guess it's obviously something we we decided to place a freeze on the rates this year, and they have seen that so far, but now they will unsee it in a way. So I just wanted to make sure that some communication is prepared and addressed properly. I don't know if obviously, I'm sure we will be doing it, but maybe if that needs to be put in the motion or...
Doesn't need to be put in the motion. In anticipation of this, we have that already prepared and ready to go. Because we could have gone one of a number of ways from Gould. They could have agreed to a complete freeze, agreed to a freeze for 6 months. They could have, and then they did what they offered was, you know, freeze for 6 months, then charge like wounded bulls from January. So that's just not acceptable. And I actually have a meeting with the new Water Board chair this afternoon, Maxine Bruce, who's a fantastic community advocate, and she'll certainly be making sure Maxine's aware of our position on this as well. Because we're supposed to have a community representative or within the Water Board of Directors. So is that happening? Or? Yeah, well, it's former councillor Peter Masters has been appointed to the Gladstone Water Board. Whether he sat in on a meeting or not, I'd have to leave that up to Gorb to advise whether Pete's actually attended a meeting. I know it's his birthday coming up on Monday, I think, so happy birthday, Pete, when that happens. But yeah, I don't know if Pete's actually attended a meeting yet. And to be fair, the same with Maxine and with Pete, when they're there, they got to represent the corporation they're representing, which is Gladstone Water Board. Now, they can have their community mind on, and I know they would every time, but they've also got to be, according to the legislation and the Act, would do what's in the best interest of the board they sit on. So I don't want to go into that too much, but we'll find out if Pete's actually sat on a meeting yet.
I was talking to former Councillor Masters last week, I think, and he hasn't been formally appointed yet. They're waiting on the new Minister for Water to sign off and whatever processes there is. So.
I mean, I understand the obligations of the board members, but I guess when if you're a member of a board, your interest is to that organisation or corporation, but it's also to its customers. So, and it's kind of disappointing that the representative that we appointed, like probably, I don't know, over a year ago, hasn't even been able to sit at one of these meetings.
It's disappointing. Councillor Trevor?
I just need to confirm, Mayor, that we need a very clear message to our community that this council makes no money out of water, as I indicated during my statement, and you've confirmed. But we'll get blamed for this anyway, because that's what happens. Messages get mixed, and eventually it'll be the council being blamed for this price increase. I think our media team needs to make it very clear that the victims of this new tax, and that's how I describe it, the victims of this new tax are this community, and it's not the Gladstone Regional Council's fault.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. I do note that the Gladstone Water Board has been advertising a lot lately. I've seen them, I think, on front pages of Gladstone News and things. So obviously, getting their message out there. So we'll do the same, I'm sure.
We can hold back on Part C of the resolution about the future of Gladstone Area Water Board until a later date. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just mention, currently, as Council knows, there's the water meter reading cycle being done, and of course that data will be processed by our teams towards the end of December, January. Now, just for your information, the water consumption notices that will be issued mid-February will show that increased charge. So just wanted to let councillors know that fact.
When do they go out? When do they...
They'll have an issue date of roughly the 18th of February, give or take.
We've got a couple of months to catch up with a month to catch up with the Minister in the new year, I'd say. He'll be very busy at the moment. I think I might put that amended motion, so it's moved by Councillor Hanson and seconded by Councillor Branthwaite as amended with Part B. We write to the Minister and have that conversation. Everyone's got that? I'll put that motion. All in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is G4.3 and the Queensland Audit Office interim and final reports. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this item is to note both the interim and final reports that we've received as council from the Queensland Audit Office. in line with the local government regulations. Previously, Council has tabled these and seen these reports through the ARIC committee and have noted the minutes and the inclusion of those reports accordingly. Our new auditors have and certainly Queensland Audit Office have taken I guess an alternative opinion with respect to how they'd like to see this presented, and certainly that's why this matter is before you today. So the Queensland Audit Office report issued a unmodified opinion to Council on the 16th of November with respect to its statements, which we was very pleased to see, and those financial statements were included in your annual report adopted on the 17th. There were several issues identified within that, and they're included within the report, and largely they are to do with the assessment of the impairment generally, but specifically with the airport, with respect to the Airport Corporation, and also with respect to our timing and supporting information around asset valuations, and just to make sure that we're continually improving in that space. Happy to take any questions with respect to those reports, and yep.
Thank you. Councillor Goodluck has a question. Right, Councillor Goodluck's happy to move.
Just have one question, Mr. Mayor.
Second to Councillor Churchill, and then a question from Councillor Hanson.
Just one point, that's all. The asset valuations and management plans, it says here they're outdated and all that sort of stuff. We've been talking about this for a while, and I'm sure it'll go to ARIC tomorrow. It is in the ARIC minutes tomorrow. Just concerning, that's all. It's ongoing. And also the deficiency in purchasing. It was brought up as a red mark as well. The asset, and that'll be covered tomorrow too, I hope, in the ARIC meeting. Addressing those two items,
yes. in turn, so the asset management plans have been signed off and adopted, and were signed off and adopted prior to the preparation of financial statements. That has been raised because essentially it wasn't resolved prior to 30 June, was in that period between the essentially 1 July and the sign-off of our draft financial statements. So hence that's the concern with the reasons why it's raised. So don't anticipate seeing that one again. And look, asset valuations will appear on every council's audit opinion in that space, because they is a area that continues to change and continues to, as we get more information and as we get resurvey assets from time to time, you will continue to see movements in that space. With respect to the purchasing, we've got looking at implementing a three-way match system enabled through our financial software that has that's been enabled through us moving to the cloud and through to CIA, which is a new version of our financial software. We're looking at go live of that of 31 March. So that will resolve that substantive issue also.
Thank you.
Mr. Muscat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mark, I just wanted to, I read as much as I could from this report. So, and I've noted that there's, I guess, praise in a number of areas about the collaboration or the help that the organisation received from all the officers. So I just wanted to thank you and your team for doing this. I know it's been a bit of a stressful situation, especially when it comes to the airport situation. So, and there's also, as we just mentioned, there will be things in here that have been addressed already, so they won't be here. It's just that, and some things that are quite important in relation to asset management. So I'm kind of really glad to see that. I know we have a bit of a way to go in some of those areas, but it's good to see that. And it's also good to see that this also has been, this reflects everything that we get every month when you present your financials, the good and the bad stuff, like when we talk at, the asset sustainability ratio and things like that, which is something obviously we need to look into, but it's reflected here. And I guess this gives us and the community also reassurance that what the information we've been provided and they've been provided, it's real and it's, there's nothing to be aware of, I guess. So, yeah, just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Any further questions, councillors? Moved by Councillor Goodluck, seconded Councillor Churchill. Put the motion. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move to, we've got two more items, then we'll go to morning tea. G 4.4, which is Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting 30th September. The minutes there. Back to you again, Mark.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this item is just to consider the minutes from the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee that was held on the 30th September 2020. The highlights of those meetings are summarised in the report there for you, and councillors will be aware they have received a separate briefing from the chair of the ARIC committee post that meeting on the 13th of October, which addressed the concerns and discussed the issues at that point in time. So happy to take any questions with respect to that item.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Goodluck. Move, Councillor Goodluck. Seconder, please. So Grady. Put the motion. All in favour? It's carried. And one more item, we'll go to morning tea, which is 4.5, Central Queensland Regional Organisation of Councils Limited Voting Entitlements. Over to you, Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I think it's fairly straightforward. Councillors would be aware now that CQ has been formally constituted as a company limited by guarantee, and this report is just seeking an order of preference in terms of exercising council's one vote at meetings. So the recommendation is that in the order of the Mayor, if the Mayor's not available, the Deputy, if neither the Mayor or the Deputy, the CEO. So.
Before councillors vote, to Councillor Goodluck, and I have a conflict of interest? No?
Pleased to move the motion,
Thank you.
Mr Chair.
Thank you. Move, Councillor Churchill, seconded by Councillor Cameron. Any discussion? Everyone's ready for a cup of tea? All in favour? That motion is carried. Thank you. We'll break for morning tea and we'll be back shortly.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Thank you, councillors, thank you, officers. We'll move back to the items on the agenda. The next item is 4.6, which is Stormwater Quality Improvement Devices, SQUIDs policy. And I'll hand over to Mark Holmes again. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this item is with respect to consideration of repeal of our current policy that's in place to govern the use of stormwater quality improvement devices across the region, so SQUIDs. Our current policy is in alignment with our current Capricorn Municipal Development Guidelines. So they are our development guidelines that are in place, and we work through with other councils within the region to ensure there's consistent development across the region. And they're guided by Australian standards. So this policy was originally put into place to essentially govern the use of these, but the recommendation following the review of this policy is that there's enough Australian standards and these developer guidelines that there is essentially no need for this, essentially an additional policy to govern the use of SQUIDs in this space. So the use of these is already provided for in each of those documents.
Thank you. Fairly straightforward, councillors. Mover, please. Move Councillor O'Grady, seconded Councillor Muscat. All in favour? That's carried. And the next item on the agenda is G 4.7, which is contract staff remuneration policy. It says General Manager of Finance and Risk again, okay, but I see Tinas is with you as well. Thank you.
So thank you, Councillor. So the contract staff remuneration policy has, so all policies come through the governance team, but the substantive work in the space has been done by our GM for People, Culture and Safety. So I'll hand over to Tinas to take you through that.
Thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to bring the revised policy back. As you might recall, the last opportunity, there was a concern raised about what it could mean from a quantum perspective in terms of potential remuneration creep to a 75th percentile. We have taken that concern into consideration and revised the policy to now read that the Council would remunerate in a band plus minus 5% of the 50th percentile. And just to put that into context, that is the 50th percentile for similar councils within Queensland, and the 50th percentile just means that council would pay, there would be an arrange that means that 50% of similar councils would pay more than what we pay and 50% less. So it's placing us right in the middle. And the revised statement here, revised policy position is plus minus 5% of that 50th percentile with discretion of the CEO to go to the 75th percentile on a case-by-case basis if that's required to attract or retain a specific staff member. We've included a bit of statistics in the report where it shows that 72% of our staff are paid within that range in any way. There's 8 staff that's paid above the 5% of the 50th percentile and 8 staff members paid below. If adopted, Council would, the way that we would approach this is to look at a risk-based approach to consider those below 5% of the 50th percentile, whether it's necessary to bring them in line with that range or within that range, and that will only be done on a risk-based approach. So the risk identified by Council in the previous session is mitigated by the revision of the policy, and the request or the recommendation is that Council accept the revised policy.
Thank you. Questions, councillors, to either Mark or Tinas? Councillor Hanson.
Through the Mayor, Tinas, item 6.5, could the wording be in the remuneration review of level 2 and other individual contract staff, should it be the same as a performance and salary review? Same as what the CEO's got. I know you're working towards the performance part of it, but should that stated in the policy?
I have no problem to make that changement, Councillor, because that's where we're going. There's a lot that hang on this approval of this policy because it sets in motion a number of things, and that's definitely where we are going, so it's not a problem.
Just another question, if I may. This may be on notice, this one. With contract wording and individual contract wording reviewing of a contract, is that in the GM's case reviewed by the CEO only, or, you know, if we're looking at contracts for GMs, or we're looking at contracts for CEOs, that's set by you, Tina?
So in terms of reviewing general managers, that would be under the discretion of the delegation of the CEO. As it relates to the CEO, it would be as per the policy, the suggestion is the Mayor, but in the policy it suggests that there would be a salary and performance review committee appointed, which was already appointed. Just the first meeting has not taken place pending the approval of this policy, but general managers would be under the delegation of the CEO, as it is now at the moment.
That's under the Local Government Act. Is that right?
Yes.
So good luck.
Well, look, I think it's important that Gladstone Regional Council remains competitive and is able to attract and retain our staff. Every time we lose a staff member, particularly highly skilled contract staff, which I'm sure the majority of these are, we lose momentum with projects and items that we're trying to deliver for our community, so it's important. We're never going to be the highest paying organisation in the region when we've got lots of industry out there that's offering better money, but I think this policy represents part of the suite of options that we offer as an organisation that enables us to try and attract and retain quality staff. So I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. I have a mover, Councillor Goodluck. Is there a seconder before I go for more? Seconder, Councillor Cameron. Any further questions, councillors? I have one. The 50th percentile benchmark, how do you determine that? Is it MacArthur or is it someone else, or is it whoever? How do you decide that?
We've removed MacArthur as specifically as a specific organisation and more referred to the 50th percentile of the market. So that gives us the option to look at different remuneration surveys. At the moment, we use the MacArthur survey purely for the reason that it is the survey that represents most of the councils across Australia. Out of the 270 odd councils, they've surveyed 207, I think, in the last one. But it doesn't stop us to go to any of the other providers if that's required.
Thank you. There was something else down the CEO. Oh no, Councillor Hanson got that. Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? No further questions. I put the motion. It was moved. Councillor Goodluck, seconded Councillor Cameron. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors.
We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is G 4.8. Councillor Churchill had a conflict of interest, I believe. Oh, and remaining in the room. Sorry, I always missed that. Thank you.
I will not go quietly.
No, it's all right. I just had it down as a conflict. I wasn't sure I missed that bit. And I'll hand over to our Economic Development Specialist, Gary Scandal, who is presenting this report on behalf of Carly Quinn. Thank you.
Hey. Good morning, councillors. So we've, council officers have been dealing with the Department of Transport and Main Roads, looking at alternative routes for heavy vehicles travelling to and from the Port of Gladstone. TMR have identified two potential routes, option A and option B, which are attached to the report, and I can talk to a bit more in detail. The TMR have done a stakeholder engagement program, and they've invited Gladstone Regional Council to respond on their preferred option. Community consultation closed on the 29th of October, and council has until the 2nd of December to propose the options, the preferred option. What will happen from this consultation is TMR will develop a business case and will report on the planning phase to identify the preferred route and options and why it was chosen. TMR have considered a number of options before they crystallised down to option A and option B. The business case is expected to be finalised and circulated in early 2021. There's no more definitive date than that. Obviously, the development is critical to our priority, strategic priority by council of developing a heavy vehicle corridor into the Port of Gladstone. We've had considerable consultation through our departmental offices with both the Gladstone Port Corporation and Department of Transport and Main Roads and their consultants. The recommendation is that based on the consultation, the information available to us, that option B as a dedicated restricted access at grade corridor with the existing rail corridors is the preferred based on this high level assessment. Happy to answer any questions.
I'll kick it off. I remember the Port Access Road better than probably most people. I sat in the council chambers where we decided on building Route D, it was called at the time, which is where it connects Glen Line Road through to the port, and it was always meant to connect through to Red Rover Road. Gary, I note that big yellow line goes as far as Blaine Drive. That's obviously the next stage. But let's not forget that this road is meant to go all the way to Red Rover, and in fact could even go further out beyond Red Rover, which is why it was built the way it was built at Don Young Drive at the sweeping turn there near the Calamonda overpass to go out and connect beyond the power station, and giving up the options, of course, going to the west through Don Young Drive and connecting Dawson Highway. I will not support, and I'm glad to see the recommendation doesn't, Hanson Road being used as a port access road. It'll probably get temporarily used because that's what is happening by and large by a lot of cases now. And it is a main road, so it's not our road to decide what is on there. But at the end of the day, we need to send a firm message to the Queensland government and the federal government, who have got $100 million, remember. I stood next to Michael McCormack and Ken O'Dad when they announced $100 million. I won't go back to the fact that it was taken away earlier, but $100 million was put on the table just prior to the last federal election for standing in Memorial Park, and that is to build this next stage. It has to go to Blaine Drive, and it then has to go all the way to Red Rover. That's the idea of that Port Access Road. The Port Access Road was built so we could get the trucks off Flinders Parade, and that's how we got East Shores. It was built so we could get the trucks off Gladstone's ratepayer roads, and until we have a designated port access road from Red Rover Road at least to the Port of Gladstone, I don't think we should be considering anything else. Thank you, Councillor Trevor.
It's nice to hear that, Mayor Burnett. It's a bit of a history lesson today, and I recall vividly your support of the Port Access Road Stage 1 all those years ago. I also recall standing on the Port Access Road in 2010 with the then Federal Treasurer of Australia, Wayne Swan, where Mr Swan and myself committed $55 million towards the Port Access Road as part of an election promise, which wasn't met by the then opposition, who opposed it most strenuously on the basis that Chris Trevor would throw pensioners out of their homes if we proceeded to take the path that was then recommended by all, and that was along the railway corridor through to Red Rover Road. It was never envisaged by the announcement in 2010 where $55 million was committed for Stage 2 of the Port Access Road, but not supported by the opposition, who made these silly allegations, of course, in relation to pensioners being thrown out of their homes if we went along the railway corridor, but that's politics. As we know it, unfortunately, in Australia, and never was it ever promoted or discussed or even thought about taking the Port Access Road stage through to Hanson Road, Port Curtis Way, and then through to Mount Larkham. The issue, of course, is somewhat more than just taking the alternate route through Hanson Road and impacting upon small businesses, which when we set that estate up as a community, it was never designed to have heavy vehicle users traverse right through the middle of it. And apart from safety issues, there's also the concern in relation to the Calliope River Bridge. And those of you who have been in the community for some time will know that some years ago there was a need to significantly repair that bridge that crosses Calliope River because of scouring as a result of flooding in the Calliope River and the use of the bridge by heavy motor vehicles. If we were to proceed down that path and take it on a different path that has always been promoted, not only by Swan and myself and subsequently Beers and Shorten and then Mr Ken O'Dowd, who matched the funding that Beers announced, we may have to replace the the Calliope River Bridge at significant cost. And what concerns me there is that since the initial announcement in 2010, it's now 2020, we're still talking about 10 years on since the original announcement, a project that is extremely important for our community, not only for the provision of infrastructure to the Gladstone port, but also to create a significant number of jobs for our community at a time when jobs are critically important. But 10 years on, we're still talking about it, and if we have to build a bridge or new bridge over the Calliope River, it'll be another 10 years before that bridge is announced. And all the necessary design and planning is done. So, for the reason that it's been 10 long years since the original announcement, and we now have both parties in federal government supporting it finally, and the likelihood that it'll be another 10 years before the design and planning goes into a new bridge over the Calliope River. And the fact that it's always been the proposal that we take it along the rail corridor through to Red Rover Road, I couldn't possibly support anything else, Mayor Matt, because, as I say, and I don't want to labour the point excuse the pun. But it's been 10 years since the then Labor government announced this project for this community to create jobs and to provide important economic infrastructure to our Port of Gladstone. And in 2020, we haven't turned the sod. We haven't put a shovel in the ground. What a terrible indictment. That this important project has not proceeded to date. It just beggars belief as to why this project isn't already built through to Red Rover Road, and why we haven't created the hundreds of jobs that would be available if this project was to proceed. And I hope sincerely, as the then representative of this community at the federal level who announced that funding in 2010, I hope I don't have to wait another 20 years to actually see it happen. But if we don't go down Blaine Drive through to Red Rover, and we even consider the prospect of going along the alternate route, it will be another 20 years before this thing ever happens, and that would be an absolute disgrace.
Here. Councillor Churchill, I mean, sorry, before I throw to you, you were talking about we want to be able to develop our port, and the way to do that is road train network, and we don't want to be running road trains past the good people and the good businesses of Hanson Road. That's just not acceptable. And admittedly, like I said before, it's a main road, but it's going to take a little while to get road train network, but we're doing a lot of work with our western neighbours, and if we can increase the size of bridges out west, and we can increase some and do some work on some other roads, we can actually connect up to a designated port road. We'll see the Gladstone Port develop to what it should be. Councillor Churchill.
Thank you, Mayor Matt, and thank you, Councillor Trevor, for, I suppose, that history lesson. History lesson for those who are already aware, but more so for those who wouldn't be aware, but need to be aware. So I wanted to make a statement, but I also want to ask a question in a history lesson, because sometimes in the course of history, we tend to forget certain aspects, because when Route D was initially proposed, there was controversy within the community at all levels regarding the access to the port that was about heavy vehicular traffic being brought through the middle of the CBD, of our small business along Hanson Road. And in making this statement, and while we can talk about the safety and the economic, it's about planning for the future, and I tend to agree, because I remember in my unsuccessful tilt in 2008 into federal politics, it was to get the other side of politics, or the political parties, to get them to understanding that this was had to be a bipartisan project. It had to be a bipartisan project. And I agree, and we're still sitting here pandering over it as to why. I'm a little bit suspicious, I've been suspicious on another matter today, but I'm a little bit suspicious that for some reason or other, the other option seems to have found its way into the debate, into the report, into the discussion. Now, I clearly remember from recollection that in that Route D was to follow the rail corridor, which is what you're already espousing in that history lesson. But we now have a situation where we've got another preferred option that finds its way into the dialogue. And I'm trying to work out from what happened in 2010 and be it 2012, where there was endorsement for that corridor, along the rail corridor, to ensure the safety, the well-being, that we would keep these heavy freight trucks out of that Hanson Road and the CBD. How is it that option A has found its way back into the decision? I'm suspicious, because it's not only just from a DTMR perspective, it's from a federal perspective. From what I hear, is that option will be less expensive. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Perhaps, Gary, you might know whether that's going to be less expensive. I don't know what it costs to upgrade one particular corridor and create a new greenfield corridor. But at the end of the day, I still can't understand why we've gone through this whole process. We've all agreed to agree, and now we find that option A finds its way. I don't know why it's named A or B. I don't know why they name them A or B, or 1 or 2, but There shouldn't be any options on this. It should be clearly articulated. We just simply endorse the one that we agreed to in early times. So those history lecturers today, can you perhaps give us some insight or information on those who need to be learned on this, that there are no other options but the one option, and that's the one option that should clearly be articulated today?
Originally, that traffic came along Hanson Road and accessed the port via Lord Street and turned along Flinders Parade. Now, that was the first and highest priority, was to get the trucks off Flinders Parade and move them onto designated port access road. And that's what we did. And that's why we have e-shores. And if you've been to Auckland House and you've enjoyed it, or if you've been down to any part of e-shores and enjoyed that, is because we built a designated port access road. I don't understand myself either why it is even an option, where it came from. I see that the $55 million that Councillor Trevor announced as a member for Flynn was spent somewhere else. And what I fear here is that someone has found $100 million that they want to spend somewhere else again. So it'll be the twice funded Port Road and no Port Road. So I'd be very surprised if Michael McCormack is aware of this. He's the one who announced it with Ken O'Dowd. It seems to me to be a TMR consultation process. And I'd say that perhaps that they would like to use Hanson Road at very minimal cost, upgrade a little bit here and there, and spend $100 million somewhere else. I'd say that, I won't say where that I think it's going to be.
If that be the case, we must not go quietly. We must not go quietly into the future, because this is not about today or tomorrow. This is about the next 20 to 30 years, our children, our children's children. And enough's been done 10 years ago, and I have no idea why we still have to sit here and consider whether it should be that option or the other option, and whether we're going to go to some level of community consultation to determine which option is going to be the best. There is no options except the one that was clearly articulated 10 years ago.
Here. I've got a few councillors wanting to speak. Councillor Goodluck, Branthwaite and then Hanson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Well, sorry. Gary, the only great report, I support the recommendation. I think we've had a mover, have we? Anyway, my concern was the commentary in the report, Gary, that we have concerns that the Access Port of Gladstone project is not considering the oversize over mass issue, because ultimately, at the end of the day, if we've got a port access road that doesn't enable oversize over mass freight, we've got a massive white elephant. So I'm not sure if you can give us any clarity around that, but just as a point of interest, this is a project, and particularly in regards to the oversize over mass stuff, that's on our state election priorities list. It's also on the CQ Rocks, Central Queensland Regional Organisation of Councils, Reef to Red Ridge advocacy document. It's a critical piece of infrastructure that unlocks the potential for regional economic development right across central Queensland, so it's critically important. So can you just give us some clarity around your concerns there with the OSOM stuff?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Goodluck. So the oversize over mass is about the envelope around the road rather than the weight bearing and capacity of the road for heavy vehicles. So we have raised this with DTMR as a concern. Obviously, when you're doing early design work, if this moves to early design work, then this needs to be considered. The whole operability of the facility needs to be considered. DTMR are saying they're focused on the business case at the moment and looking at the business case. Quite puzzling that they indicated that was an operational matter, not a design matter, but I would have thought that the two went hand in hand. We're currently, through other working groups, as you'd be aware of, Councillor Goodluck, really pushing this oversize over mass issue, because we have a number of major project proponents looking at coming through Gladstone that have oversize over mass capacity. The route, the port access road, the option B, there isn't too many oversize over mass issues with it, but you only need one to make the route critical. So we're looking at those in terms of operating envelopes and height capacities and widths and things like that. But yeah, I don't think I can offer any more clarity, Councillor Goodluck, on DTMR's thinking along that, other than that they're looking at the business case, moving towards early design work, and that oversize over mass an operational issue rather than a planning issue at the moment, which I find a bit perplexing. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Gary. I'd be guided by your advice and perhaps the Mayor, but I think it's critical. You know, I'm not hearing anyone's got any problems with option B. I think we all understand that's the option, but do you think it would be beneficial for us to highlight the oversize over mass issue in perhaps the resolution, because it is something, I know we're working on it through another of other aspects, but I just think it's important that we highlight that that is a critical issue, because the last thing anyone needs, I'm sure DTMR would be agreeable, but the last thing we need is to end up with a project where we've got more bottlenecks and issues that, you know, we just need to get that ironed out at the start. So if anyone would consider that in the moving of the motion.
I think we could include that as a C, because I've already got a B I haven't raised yet. To say that, you know, we highlight the oversize overmass concern with DTMR for both roads. At the end of the day, let's not forget where, by raising it with their option A, you might want to have a look at what's underneath the Hanson Road. It was pretty sure Memorial Park and everything in that area was mudflats once upon a time. Thank you. Councillor Branthwaite and then Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor Matt. Look, there's been, I don't think there's any question about what people are thinking as far as options are concerned. But what I think for anybody listening online and possibly even the government really needs to look at the future of Gladstone, its capacity to grow Queensland and Australia's GDP. I think that stopping this even at Blaine Drive is actually stifling economic growth. If we're fair income about growing Australia as a major, well, especially Gladstone as a major port and access way. I know through IQ RAP, which is the Inland Queensland Road Transport, well, there's an action group, and we're working with the Western councils and getting access for Type 1 road trains to come directly into our port. There's massive savings within that for the primary producer, but it also opens us up for imports and possibly connections with the southern ports as far as containerisation is concerned. It opens up so much, which means more employment, more jobs, and increasing Australia and Queensland's capacity to grow and export. In saying that, the road should go all the way through to Red Rover. I don't think there's any question of that, but to even contemplate Hanson Road is just nuts as far as I'm concerned. But we need to invest in Australia's future, and only half doing this is only half the way, and it'll be another 20 years before the rest of it gets done. So we need it all done.
Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, I echo what most of the councillors have already said, but the safety of the Gladstone communities is paramount in this project. And the original concept of the Port Access Road Stage 2, Option B, will allow separation of heavy vehicle and residential traffic at the Glen Line interchange, which is very, very important. This council, or any other council I've been on, has never ever suggested that there are any other options than Option B, and nor should there be. Just a question, is, Gary, TMR preparing a business case utilising both options, or have they identified their preferred option already and are progressing this? Because you're saying that it says in the report that TMR are preparing a business case. So what are they utilising? Just the one option or the two options?
Councillor
It's a bit
Hanson,
of a worry.
they identified a number of options early and distilled the options down to these two options, and they're doing a comparative business case against these two preferred options. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can categorically state again that the only option, as far as I'm concerned, for the well-being goodness of this community would be the separation and Option B of traffic. Yeah.
Sorry, councillors, other questions? Are you moving something there? Well, before we move, that I have something I want to add. I think what we need to say is exactly that. Option B, there should be option C, which is all the way to Red Rover Road. And I think we need to state clearly that our preferred option is to Red Rover Road. However, we would accept option B as a stage 2 process, because $100 million is not going to build it to Red Rover Road, especially if they're trying to spend it somewhere else. But if we can get to Blaine Drive, then that's a good stage 2. We built stage 1, it's done very well for us. Look what we've got out of stage 1, the waterfront. We build stage 2, that's going to do more good things for our community. Stage 3 can go to Red Rover Road. But also when we build to stage 2 to Blaine Drive, we need to refer ownership of Blaine Drive back to the state government. Otherwise, we're putting them back on a council road. So go to Blaine Drive and they take ownership of Blaine Drive back to Hanson Road. That's what it should be. Otherwise, they're going to be dumping all the poor traffic on the Gladstone Regional Council Road again. We already have trucks coming in off the Banaraby Road, travelling along to Lewis Street, which was once upon a time a state-controlled road, up Derby Street, straight past Gladstone South State School, on a council-controlled road, in Glen Lyon Road, on a council-controlled road, all the way to the port, and they don't become on a port or a state-controlled road until they hit Bob Jane T. Mudd intersection. Then they go onto the Port Access Road. Meanwhile, our ratepayers are looking after the maintenance and the capital costs and the repairs to those local roads for the benefit of the port. That's fine. We know we're a port city to the world. We know we want to develop our port, but I'm not going to be having a designated port road travel to Blaine Drive and then they expect us to fix up the tab. There's no way in the world. There's plenty of roads in this city, in this region, that need to be main road. Let's not talk about the road into Agnes Water. They need to take ownership of that as well while they're listening. Yeah, well, while they're listening. We'll all... You know, our community pick up the tab for a lot of state-controlled roads. So we can be a port for the nation and a port for the state. It's about time we were treated fairly. And I think you can tell from a little bit of anger in the room that this has gone on far too long. So I think our preferred option, and we need to make it very clear to the Queensland Department of Transport and Main Roads, is to Red Rover Road. We'll accept option B as a short-term stage 2 while they try and find the rest of the money. So I'll let the CEO type that in. Is that council's? Can I say that council's preferred option? We need to start very clear. Is that the Port Access Road continue to Red Rover Road?
I'm prepared to second Councillor Trevor's motion if that be the case. It just seems like history repeating itself here.
Yes.
Of what you already had as a position 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Matt.
well, we'll just finish this draft here and we'll come back. It's council's preferred option is that the Port Access Road continue to Red Rover Road. I'm going to put this and we'll see if... Councillor Hanson?
With respect, Mr Mayor, I've had my hand up for a little while. Just a comment that, and a concern, how much strength does our selected option have and hold with TMR? That's my concern. I know that Councillor Churchill has stated very sternly that we need that and only that to happen, but how do we get that across?
At the end of the day, it's going to be... This? Well, this is it. They've asked our opinion. If we were to say we're happy with option A, I can tell you now they'd say, well, that's what the council wanted. Okay, well, the council wanted that one. That's what they wanted, and that's why we're building it, because that's what the council wanted. Well, I can tell you that's not what the council wants. This is what the council wants, and this is to continue to Red Rover Road. However, stage 2, I don't know what the wording should be. Council will endorse a staged approach to Blaine Drive. BLAIN, yep. I would like to say with Main Roads taking ownership of that road. So with Department taking ownership of that road to Hanson Road. I'm not done yet.
Just while you're getting your wording together, I'd like to ask a question of what Councillor Hanson's asking. In this circumstance today on this agenda item, are we simply a referral agency? Are we being considered as a referral agency?
Yes, Gary?
And many other stakeholders on this project? Because we need to understand and make it quite clear that this is about us representing the best interests of the future of this city and our region. And I don't believe we should just be a referral agency, and I think that's probably where my good colleague Councillor Hanson's coming from, is that we're just one of many to have an opinion.
You can never put words into my mouth, but something like that. Sorry, Gary, you're going to answer that, but yeah, it does seem that we're just one of a number of people, and it's not as if we don't want we do want the development of the city to bring all of our crops and exports to the port. We want the port to develop, and this is a critical part of it. But the community, I think, how long's it been going? 10 years or whatever, and more. The community deserves, more from the government than what we've been getting, and we need this option B in place.
Just to answer Councillor Churchill's question, so that the engagement's at two levels, Councillor Churchill. They've got a wider general community engagement, and they've had a survey and the normal community engagement strategies you would see. They've also had key stakeholder engagement, which obviously council is a key stakeholder, and there's some interdependency between the road networks that the Mayor's pointed out. And also they've been working closely obviously with the Gladstone Port Corporation, and not speaking on behalf of the Port Corporation, but the Port Corporation feedback is to stay true to their master planning, and the Port Access Road master planning was the ultimate master plan that the Mayor's spoken about, and continuing in that road outwards. I think DTMR and their consultants have invested a lot of time with council officers and Port Corporation officers at the moment as critical stakeholders on this. So, and they've also extended the submission deadline out to make sure that council's preferred options were identified and included as well. So my feedback is that I think we've been working closely with DTMR on this, and it's been good engagement. In so much as a referral agency, it's I don't think you could call it a referral agency at the moment, but it's key stakeholder involvement, being GRC and GPC. So again, it's only a business case. It's not design planning at the moment, but it's a critical element or critical time frame in the development of this project.
Thank you. I'll continue with the motion, which is, and further, we highlight the oversize, overmass concern with the department.
I can respond to that, Mayor, if you like, and
Please.
I've already that will be most certainly included in the draft in the response to DTMR. It's something that also the Port Corporation are have included in their response to DTMR as well. For the reasons that I previously indicated, there's a number of project proponents looking to come through the Port of Gladstone, and we need this infrastructure to enable that import and that development of those projects as well.
I'm happy with that wording, but Councillor Goodluck, did you want to add?
No, I'm happy with that. With what Gary's said, I'm happy to leave it there though, Mr. Mayor, just to further highlight. I just wanted to make one comment. I'm just conscious of the fact that we were somewhat critical of ourselves for our consultation efforts in an earlier agenda item, and now we're being somewhat critical of DTMR for consulting. So I do, notwithstanding the very valid points that we've made, but I am glad to see that they've engaged and that we've got this opportunity to give this feedback. So.
I'd like to highlight that would be like moving that car park from Agnes to Tenham. Councillor Trevor.
Thank you, Mayor Matt. In response to Councillor Churchill's question as to whether we are a referral agency or not, we must continually remind ourselves, as others do, that we are subservient to the state government, and ultimately they will tell us what to do. But I am aware of an enormous amount of community opposition, and most of the rest of you would be aware of it too. That to do otherwise than take the Port Access Road stage through to Blaine Drive, and stage 3 through to Red Rover Road would result in a massive community uprising, the likes of which we haven't seen since Mayor Matt put on the boxing gloves in round 1. So bring on round 2 if the state government chooses to do so, and I am happy to stand alongside the Mayor and those interested councillors to support, on behalf of the community, the port access road going through the route that it was originally intended to do.
Yeah. I'm happy to move that option there, seeing as I put it up on the table. Do I have a seconder, please? Seconded Councillor Muscat and everybody else, by the looks of it. Yeah, I part of me feels that they've just had to go through a consultation process, maybe, that they've just put this out there so that they can say that they've consulted with the community and that the forever endorsed option was what they're always going to do with it. It just seems like a whole big waste of money on deciding on an option that was already decided, unless they're actually intending to move this money somewhere else, and we'll soon find out if that's the case. Motion's moved by myself, seconded Councillor Muscat. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. Because there was a conflict of interest declared by Councillor Churchill, we have to record that. So all in favour again, please. And the motion, Councillor Churchill, you need to vote? Or no? You're going to vote against? Sorry? What? Oh, no, you don't have... I have to record how you vote, so, because of the new legislation. Thank you. Thank you. All in favour? The motion is unanimous. Thank you. Well, you could have voted against, but you didn't have to vote in for. I wasn't meaning that. But thank you. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is G 4.9, which is our Innovate Wrap endorsement. And I'll hand over to the General Manager of Community Development and Events, Kylie Lee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning, Mr Mayor, councillors, CEO and those who are online this morning. It's my absolute pleasure this morning to present our second Reconciliation Action Plan, which is our Innovate Action Plan, for your endorsement today. I've got Lee Griffiths here with me today, Council's Engagement and Partnerships Manager. Lee and his team have been a critical part of the development of this. I guess one of the differences between this reconciliation plan and those of others is it has been developed by our RAP reference group, which is a great achievement. That group has done a wonderful job to get it to where it is today. The Innovate RAP is Council's second RAP, and it's also the second level as per Reconciliation Australia's tiers. What it does is it holds Council accountable to deliver on the initiatives within the agreed timeframes across a 2-year period. The RAP centres around 4 key pillars. They are relationships, respect, opportunities and report, and it hosts about 21 actions. To ensure the successful delivery of this particular RAP, we have consulted with the business to ensure we can deliver the actions that are there, and our team is engaged in delivering those. I might hand over, have I forgot anything from you? No. I might hand over to Councillor Muscat, who's also the co-chair of the RAP reference group, if she wanted to add any additional comments.
Thank you, Kylie. Well, I mean, apart from what you just said, I just have to say that, yeah, it's been a very interesting experience. So I came to the reference group when we were halfway through the Reconciliation Action Plan, which was received really well by all staff, and in general the whole of the reference group that we have, which also Councillor Deslie O'Grady is part of. So it's taken a while to get to the next one. So the next one at least is going to go for 2 years, and hopefully then we're going to go into the next one, which is the Stretch Reconciliation Action Plan after 24 months. So I'm happy to take any questions too, as the officers would too. And I really commend this council for doing this, for having the will and giving the time to something that is so important for our community and members of our community. So thank you, and I just can't wait to start going on the actions, really, because it's taken a little while to get it approved and endorsed, I guess, by Reconciliation Australia. So hopefully we can move on and start actioning some of these, addressing some of these actions in the plan, which will be available to everybody to read from our website, I assume, after today.
I did read it before, now I can't find the attachment. Is it attached?
Yeah.
It's gone now. There it is, okay.
Oh. Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, Grady had a question?
I didn't have a question, but I just wanted to thank the others in the reference group because they've been volunteering their time coming along to the reference group, so they've had some great input into the into this. So I'd just like to thank them, and also for Trish Coleman that's done the artwork. She's done an amazing job. So thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, councillors? No? Carly, do you have anything more to add?
Sorry, I just also wanted to acknowledge Gay Sirius, Council's RAP officer. She has been the primary driving force for the delivery of this particular plan under Lee's guidance. So it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge Gay's work as well.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, I'll ask councillors to move. Move, Councillor Churchill. Seconded, Councillor Hanson. Oh, sorry, Councillor Trevor has a question.
I had no question, but I did want to acknowledge Mayor Matt, while acknowledgements are going around, the enormous support and effort and work that you, as the Mayor of the Gladstone Regional Council, your involvement has been enormous. Despite the other many tasks that you have as part of your daily duties. And I wish to commend you and your officers and support staff for the wonderful work that you've done in bringing this community together from a RAP point of view. And thank you, Natalia, for taking on the job in the future. But it's from my perspective, personally, it's just been wonderful to see, Mayor Matt, and thank you again on behalf of the council and our community for your dedication and support and ongoing efforts in relation to reconciliation of our community in the Gladstone region.
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. There we go. I moved was Councillor Churchill, and I think seconded was somewhere over here, Councillor Branthwaite, unless I got that wrong. That's who we're going to go with. We'll put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. I got it wrong. Was it Councillor Hanson? Sorry. The minutes can reflect they both second the motion. Well, 4.10 is Community Investment Program Impact Event. And back to you, Kylie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors may remember the deputation by Moogle Enterprises Director Lee McIver a few months back, seeking support to create an exhibition of large-scale outdoor public art. The project includes 5 pieces of art which will be dotted along the Bruce Highway from the north of Baroran to the south of Miriamvale, with the main exhibition featuring 10 pieces of art staged at the foot of Mount Coliseum, or Mount Moogle, which is as it's known by traditional owners. There is no other event like this one in Queensland, and there are links to our strategic direction of events as per our regional events strategy. The application was submitted under Council's Impact Event Fund, given that it attracts between potentially 2,500 to 5,000 people. The application was considered favourably by the Community Investment Program panel. However, it is proposed to fund the event at a lesser amount to observe its success and how the community connects with the event in its initial year. The application has the potential to enhance the profile and appeal of Gladstone region, attract external visitation and generate economic activity. The endorsement we have today is subject to the applicant obtaining the relevant approvals from Department of Transport and Main Roads, council planning approvals and landowner consent where the public art is placed on land owned by third parties. I invite councillors' questions with respect to the resolution.
Thank you, Kylie. I think that's an excellent recommendation. It's going to be a great project, and I think it's important that you have those conditions on them. It's no good funding a project that doesn't have main roads approvals, and we just had a conversation about them. Any further questions, councillors? If not, can I have a mover, please? Move Councillor Muscat, seconded Councillor Branthwaite. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you, Lee. Next item on the agenda is G 4.11, which is sale of arrear of rates as at the 12th of November 2020. Councillor O'Grady, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, I did, Mr Mayor. I'd like to actually move this item into confidential if possible. There are some items on the confidential attachment that I would like to discuss about some of the properties.
Thank you. We can move the item into confidential if it's because council's, there's a legal matter. I do have a thing here, a legal proceeding, and also for the privacy of the properties in the attachment, and we're discussing the confidential attachment. So I'm happy for that to be moved into confidential. Councillors, any further questions? Councillor Muscat.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just, so we're going to move the whole of the item, not just, is there a potential that we can discuss some of those and then come back? Or?
What I'll do is when the time, we'll finish the agenda because there's only one other item. If councillors agree, we'd move into confidential, let Councillor O'Grady raise the issue she wants, and then if anyone else have anything else that's related to the confidential attachment, they can discuss it then. Otherwise, we'll come back out of confidential and continue to discuss it in open council. You're moving that we go into confidential for that item?
That we move into confidential. Thank you.
And seconded by Councillor Goodluck. I'll put that motion. All in favour? Thank you, that's carried, but we're going to move into confidential after the next item. For those watching online, we've got one item left in open. We might as well deal with that first. Sorry, Mark. The next item on the agenda is 4.12.
So, Mr Mayor, for good governance, do you want a motion to defer that agenda item to the end?
Well, I said that we would move it into confidential at the end after the next item. It's basically the same thing.
Okay.
6 of one, half dozen the other. It's G4.12, which is tenders for construction of bus stop set down in Tenham Sands. Over to the General Manager of Operations, John Tumbers.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good morning, councillors. This paper is to enter into a contract with Grycan Proprietary Limited, trading as Bloomfield Excavations, for the construction of a bus stop set-down area at Tenham Sands. It's a school bus set down along Waratah Crescent outside the Tenham State School. The purpose of the set down area is to improve safety at that location. The invitation to tender went to market and received 9 submissions. The submission from Grycan Proprietary Limited scored highest in the evaluation process. The offer was for just over $546,000, which is within the existing allocations of funds for this project. I have the Manager of Contracts and Procurement online and also the Team Leader for Project Delivery if you have any questions on the project itself. So I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Questions to the General Manager, please, or officers? Councillor Muscat, have a question?
No, not necessarily a question, thank you, but just a comment. It's good to see then, you know, the amount of submissions that we had. Normally, well, I don't remember seeing that many. I guess it's not a huge job, but I can see how there's been a number of companies from a lot of areas in our region that have submitted a tender, so that's good to see. And no, I don't have any other questions, but I'm happy to see where this goes, if anyone else has one.
Questions, councillors? If not, a mover, please. Move Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Cameron. No further questions. I put the motion. All in favour, carried. Thank you. There's no written councillor reports, no urgent business, no notice of motions, and we do have a confidential item that we're moving into confidential for. So
I just have a brief...
Yes, a councillor report? Yes, absolutely.
Just a brief statement. I attended a LawMac meeting, which is the local authority waste management committee meeting in Townsville with Manager for Waste, Council's Manager for Waste, Shane Anderson. Councillor Neil Fisher, Rockhampton Regional Council, was again appointed to the chair for another year of the organisation. Forum reports are currently being forwarded to us via email, and I will produce a formal report to council when they've been compiled, or if you'd rather me just send them through via email to you outside of a formal report, I'm happy to do that.
Whatever you feel, councillor.
What's my requirement, CEO, if I have to do a formal report?
There is no current policy requiring a formal report of councillors, so it'll be at your discretion.
I'll forward all that information onto councillors. Very interesting stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Any other councillor reports? No? Thank you. What we'll do now is we'll move into confidential to discuss the G4.11, which is the sale of the rear river rates. We'll come back out of council confidential if there's any other items to discuss in open about that. Move her into confidential, please. Moved Councillor O'Grady, seconded Councillor Muscat. All in favour? Thank you. Councillor Trevor?
I just had a question, Mayor Matt. It's my understanding that the specific items that that the councillor wishes to raise will be discussed in confidential, but the general body of the document will come out of confidential to talk?
Yes, that's right. So if you have other questions that aren't confidential, they'll be discussed in open council.
Yep.
Thank you. We'll move into confidential now, and that was carried. So we'll be back shortly. Thank you, councillors. Back to 4.11, which is sale of arrear of rates as at the 12th of November. Is there any other questions regarding the officer's report, please? Or Mark, would you like to add anything?
I guess, yeah, councillors, this report is around considering sale for arrears action on properties that have become eligible for sale arrears. You'll note in the report, not only does this outline essentially the number of properties that we're looking at taking action on, but it does also compare, I guess, what other councils are doing during essentially this pandemic period. You'll note that we actually put sale for arrears proceedings on hold as part of our initial COVID measures, and that's why we didn't actually proceed to sale last year. So some of those sale properties now appear on the list again. But in summary, two of those councils have commenced sale. Out of the 5 councils we've surveyed, 2 of them have started. One will be commencing on 1 January, and 2 councils have postponed until 1 July sale for arrears actions.
In order to be put on that list, it's 3 years you haven't paid your rates for, is that correct? Minimum of 3 years?
It's 3 years outstanding. So, yeah, so essentially it's current year plus 3.
Current year plus 3.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Has to be one line item minimum owing from 1 plus 3 years.
Thank you. Okay, do I have a mover in the officer's recommendation? Thank you, councillor Goodluck. I know you have a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just note that, as noted in the report, that Mackay, Rockhampton, Toowoomba have suspended their sale of land proceedings, and I think, it goes back to some points we've touched on previously, that given this time, that another 6 months, and I'm sure we'll be having conversations, I suspect, with these proponents in that time. But that to me seems like a reasonable course of action at the moment. And then, so I would probably support that course of action, similar to some of our neighbouring councils.
Thank you, councillor Goodluck. Further comments, please? Or questions? Councillor Trevor.
I just note from the officer's report, Mayor, that councillors resolved to proceed with sale of land action each year for the past 11 years. So if our decision today was to proceed with the sale, it would be no different to what we've done for the past 11 years. And I also note that as per the attached confidential table, there is a loss of revenue to council amounting to in excess of $3 million if we don't take this action. I also note that from 2018-2019 to the present date, there has been well over 100% increase in defalcations in relation to the non-payment of rates, and that we don't take action for at least a period of 3 years. And that is obvious to me that a lot of these arrears have accrued well prior to the COVID crisis that occurred on the 29th of March of this year. The concern I have in relation to not taking action is that it falls upon other ratepayers who do the right thing. And I think for the small minority of people who do the wrong thing, I'm not suggesting in any way that they should be punished, but what I am suggesting is that in order to facilitate an outcome which is favourable to council and the general ratepayers base, they should be brought to heel in relation to the non-payment of their rates. I can't go into a supermarket today and demand of the attendant that I not pay my groceries for another 3 years. We are a business. We need to operate this establishment as a business. We have a potential loss of over $3 million in relation to the non-payment of rates, which have been outstanding significantly well prior to the COVID crisis. Over 40% of our properties in the Gladstone region are investment properties. And my view in relation to that is that if you can't pay your rates, then perhaps you shouldn't invest in our community, because ultimately the responsibility of the non-payment of rates rests with the greater majority who do the right thing and pay their rates on time, because that's how we deliver the services that our community expect. And if you don't pay your rates, we can't deliver the services that the greater majority of our population expect us to deliver as a council. So as hard as it is, my view is that they must be brought to account. These arrears were incurred well prior to COVID. And I think in the interests of business sense, we don't have much choice. And what we will find, and what history has shown, that when these notices issue, over 90% of rate arrears are paid simply because mortgagees are reluctant to allow the properties to be sold at a price less than what could ultimately mean market value, or less than what their mortgage is actually worth from a security point of view. So we know as a fact that if we take this action, 99% of people or their mortgagees will pay the arrears, and we'll have $3 million in the bank, which is $3 million that we don't currently have.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Further comments, please? Councillor Muscat, then I'll come back to Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you. I was just, I guess, following on what Councillor Trevor said. I just wanted to, I guess, looking through a list, there isn't any property that is, I guess, the outstanding rates come from, back at least 3-4 years ago. So this is not a recent thing, or just to put it out there again and confirm with you that, because going through the list, I can't see any, but just in case I'm overseeing something.
No, so to be eligible to be on the list, you need to have had arrears that are 3 years or more overdue. So effectively, you're in there for 4 years, and that's demonstrated in the attached table.
Yeah, so these are people that have not paid their rates for at least the last 4 years.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Grady, I'll come back to you, but Councillor Goodluck was first. You happy to communicate, Councillor Grady? Yep, Councillor Grady.
Sorry, Mark or James. Just with the payment plan, so you've obviously gone through that scenario with them for payment plans and whatever?
Well, actually, yes, people have been, a reminder letter has been sent out as well. And what we want to do is to engage people, to say, look, there's an amount due, but also people are able to make payments towards it. Now, unfortunately, if people don't make regular payments, or if they don't stick to a payment plan, we're back to where we started. We're not able to really progress that, because a payment plan is only good as someone honouring it. So people certainly are aware of the fact that we're amenable. We want to do all we can to help people not even get to this point in the first place, because this is the end point.
Last result.
The last resort. What we want to do is, and what we've done, or Council has done already with the amended hardship policy, is make it very clear that we want to work with people to get on top of these things, not to let it get to this point. But then, of course, sale of land action, as Council is looking at here now, is the ultimate legislative means that Council has to enforce debts which are legitimately owed to it.
Thanks, James. Councillor Goodluck.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'll just, I know that we, every year we have this item, and every year that I've been sitting here, I've supported that approach to commence the sale of arrears, but this is not an ordinary year. This is the year of 2020, which has been a massive year and huge economic impacts to certain people, and my concern is that this year, these impacts might have exacerbated the issue for certain people within our community. And I just think it's about the message that we send It's only, 7 months if we postpone it, as some of our neighbouring councils have done. I've got no doubt that Mark and James and the team will be liaising with these people that are in these tough circumstances and trying to make sure that they work as proactively and as collaboratively as possible to accrue these unpaid and outstanding rates. But for me, it's just, it comes back, I think, about the message that we're sending at this particular time, and I don't see it as a major issue to just postpone this. I know, according to the graphs, we're sitting just above the average outstanding rates. I presume that's across the councils across the state of Queensland. It's not, in my point of view, and respect that others might think differently, but it's not a huge urgent issue. Another 6 months we can try and work with these people, and then and hopefully within that time frame we might see some of these people in a better position to come out and come out the other end. So that's all I've got to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor.
Certainly open to council to resolve in that way, but that might, from an administrative point of view, have implications in terms of us processing some sale of lands in 6 months' time. It would be a two-layered approach then. It would be those who have arrears in 6 months' time, and then further sale of land action at the end of the year as well. So it might result in additional administrative complication because you'd have two lots going out, because we wouldn't catch everyone in that sale of land that we do in 6 months' time. So you could obviously resolve to do that, or to defer it for another year. It's council's decision.
Thanks, James. If we were to defer it for 12 months, if there was ever a year that you were going to defer sale of arrears, if 2020 is not that year, well, there's probably never going to happen. But if we were to defer it for 12 months, that's 12 months. Eventually, those rates will be recovered by this council. And from my perspective, hopefully that 12 months would just give people, in one of the most difficult years in living memory, would give certain people the opportunity to try and get back to a better position.
Thank you. Councillor Trevor?
It would result in quite an extra impost in terms of the amount of work done by revenue services, so that we'd probably need to get some help to deal with the sheer number of cases should council resolve in that way.
Councillor Trevor?
I understand wholeheartedly the Deputy Mayor's position in relation to it being a most difficult year for our community, but having read the report, including under the heading Financial and Resource Implications, of most concern to me, or one of my concerns, was the following paragraph. Should sale of land action not be undertaken this financial year, it is likely that the 106 potential 2021-2022 sale of land assessments will have to be added to the 219 assessments listed in Attachment 1, resulting in approximately 325 assessments qualifying for such action in 2021-22. Current resources in revenue services would be challenged to manage sale of land action on such an unprecedented scale. And that therein, for me, Deputy Mayor, makes my decision very, very easy. Sorry, and Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. Can I have a mover for either the officer's recommendation or an alternative, please? Councillor Branthwaite. What are you doing? You're waving there. You're moving an officer's recommendation or an alternative?
I am moving the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite.
Happy to second that,
Seconded,
Mayor.
Councillor Trevor. Is there any further discussion? I put the motion. All in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors.
I'd like to call a division there.
Thank you. Put the division. All in favour? Councillor Branthwaite, Councillor Trevor, Councillor O'Grady, Councillor Cameron, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Hanson, Councillor Churchill and myself are in favour of the motion, and Councillor Goodluck is opposed to the motion. The motion is carried, and that is the last item on the agenda, and so I'll declare the meeting closed at 12:23 p.m. Thank you.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.